more in this one. Whew. This one's a good one against two of the top players in Age of Empires right now. Wham, the Canadian, coming in. Going and starting off right away with the most Arabia of dry Arabias. This should be fun. I'm excited. We've got Golden Horde versus French. What do you expect to see in this one, Whammon?
Well, aside from this one, I will talk about this one in a second. I just want to point out we have mountain clearing soccer in. Like, we have mountain clearing. Finally. Yeah, we're getting drafted cover side of mountain clearing. That's big. We're finally getting to see a little bit of action there. And who has English? No one does.
No one does? Still, mountain clearing, or as I like to call it, the Thunderdome. Lots of fun. I'm excited. Hopefully we get to see that one. Hopefully it's not a 3-0. We only get Dry Arabia, Coastal Cliffs, and Baldland. I'd be kind of sad. I really want to see at least one of those other two maps. So hopefully we get to dive into one of those.
That's the beauty of the start of the series, because we get to talk about these things, because that first part of the game, Golden Horde, didn't do anything in Dark Age. So guys, let's take a look at the win rates head to head. As we can see, these guys have faced off quite a few times, but the man who reigns supreme has been Wham. But it's pretty close. I mean, 53% is not the number we're going to be banking our bets on. I would say this is a pretty evenly matched situation, and I think both of these players best the best. So I can't wait to see what they pull out.
Yeah, this one's basically a coin flip. We'll see. When Wham's on his game, he can be the best in the world. Anotand, likewise, when he's playing really, really hot, he's playing hot. But I mean, that's to be seen. We'll see who gets it to be on top of this one. Make your bets right now. It looks like the prediction is up and live for those on Twitch. We dive into game number 1. Anotand playing as the French. First time we've gotten to see French today in the yellow and the north corner. And here we're looking at it right now, the OVO down in the south in purple, Golden Horde. It's played by Wham.
I'm a little bit surprised to see that golden tent being all the way in China. Wham is very... Yeah. Now, of course, you're playing against French. You're not going to be too worried about this. It feels like a distraction golden tent to just make sure that, hey, if you want to attack something, attack this thing. It doesn't mean much. But already going out onto the deer, that feels good. When you're French and you get to spot this early on, you just have free reign and a ton of resources. And this is exactly what French needs, especially in the early game. We've seen French be a pro scout civ. It's not something they want to do. It's something they have to do most of the time. So really happy for Anotand to find such a chunky little deer pack. But also, we're getting French, finally. So someone is being allowed to play French. And I would love to see why we've been seeing so many bans. I feel like we've seen why. I just really want to see it in the hands of Anotand too.
As far as why, it's a really good civ, right? I mean, knights, early knights, and the meta has not changed a whole lot for French since the beginning of this game. They have always been a feudal knight civ. They will probably always be a feudal knight civ. The Chamber of Commerce is always more of a meme than a legit strategy. You're always going to get knights. Like, it's just what's going to happen. And knights are good, it turns out. Knights are very good, especially early on in the game. So how they manage their food and eco, again, pro scouts can come into play, going aggressive on the map, going for boar, things like that. We'll see. That has differed over the years. But in the end, the name of the game is www.moreknights.com, and that's what I expect to see here. I'm curious how Wham deals with that as Golden Horde. Already we see the tent very, very up in Narnia, middle of nowhere. Curious how he plans to go about dealing with the classic French knight spam.
Now, usually when you're playing something like the Mongols, you feel pretty confident in your... Well, you don't feel pretty confident. Actually, let's scratch that. You feel confident because you can rush them. Golden Horde doesn't have that type of luxury. They don't have horses that match up to the knights. They need to make the counter unit. So it does feel like you get forced into a position where you're always a little bit on the back foot with regards to this. Cannon the Dorgrid's coming out. It's going to take a hot moment, and French going to be aging up with that School of Cavalry. No surprises there. We want knights. So in 1-to-1 in a battle, Torgoods are just not going to be stacking up against this. So it's going to be on Wham to try and get a knight caught out, to try and make a crazy play. Maybe the Khan can make some magic happen, push off of the deer at least. But the problem is the knights are going to be close by, and they are going to be there to support. And especially already having Wheelbarrow just means that your little Khan raid might not be enough to actually get some real damage done.
Well, and to add to that, this could be very lopsided in that both the gold and the deer are in that back north corner. So you've got to, man, you got to hike all along the Silk Trail just to get there. I mean, it's a long way away, and it's in the back of the base. It's probably not too difficult to wall it off eventually. You see those two wood lines to the left of the yellow TC. That could be a wall eventually, and there's a lot behind there. There's just a lot that Anotand can do to secure this position. I think Wham has his work cut out for him.
Oh, this is the game of spawns, and especially when you're up against French, you always ask yourself, where am I going to be the aggressor on? Now, sometimes with this matchup, we actually see the first French knight being the protector, in a way. You want to make sure that you get the advantage enough from your deer, or whichever external food source you're on, that you can really make this matter. And two knights, they just deal with any amount of villagers pretty easily. And now with the scout also killing off those last deer, he knows this is something he needs to capitalize on for as long as possible. So a lot of French players don't mind putting that French first knight a little bit more defensively, especially with Wham already queuing up that first spear. He is not going to take any chances. He's already prepared for this. So that first knight doesn't hit as well as it usually would. But we already see a wall coming in, and instead of it being Wham, that's an Anna wall. So Wham will gonna be.
I said that's exactly what I was saying. Between those two wood lines, I mean, it's just too perfect. When you get offered such a perfect spot to do something like that, you just gotta take it.
And now with that for the taking, he's just gonna secure most of what he needs. It feels like you're just forcing your opponent to make mistakes when you are stuck behind this wall, and you can get your army caught out so easily. That knight, though, he's not in a spot to protect the villager building that wall, and I think we were about to have a little visitor. So as we see the Khan also coming through, he's going to get a decent hit off, but the villager is running with the fastest boots he can equip, and will be able to make it home safely, as that second knight is also being placed defensively to shut this down. That wall is so key in keeping this strategy running smoothly.
Yeah, once that wall goes up, then it's kind of free reign for these knights to, like you said, at first they start defensive. That wall goes up, suddenly that switch gets flipped, and Anotand moves on to the offensive front instead.
Now, Golden Horde does Golden Horde things, as we see them just going for a nice little deer pack with a tower on top, as they were designed to do. But the Khan is getting his first victim, and French is the first man who will lose a villager. Now, this is a nice pickup, but not the end of the world. Of course, you got your value from there, but it never feels good to lose a villager this early in the game, even as the French, who has a bit of a villager lead.
I think it's actually massive. It's not massive now, you're right. The one vill is a grain of sand, right? Not a huge swing. It is pretty early, though. I think this speaks to a lot of what Wham is looking to do. He knows that the way to stop the French tide of knights is to hit them in the eco. Slow that down. So every pickoff, like it's one right now, but they will add up, and Wham is good enough to make them add up over time. He does lose, however, the Khan. I think he would make that trade regardless. I think the idle time and the damage dealt, I think, is worth it still, marginally. But watch for Wham to try to keep pressing the issue, because he knows if he's not the one raiding, then he's going to be the one getting raided.
And you can see with all the pings going on the map, this is where people start to make mistakes. This is where you keep your knight there for a little bit too long. This is where you charge into a spearman for a second too long and lose a lot of HP. So this is where Wham gets to exploit the multi-purpose uses of this civilization. He can be in so many places at the same time with the horses he's got. He just needs to be careful not to lose most of them, because some of those store goods are getting dangerously low. But the spears in position, they are doing well, but now the knight numbers are starting to increase too. And now you're going to be charged on too. And luckily for him, he does have those big chunky towers for safety, so it doesn't feel as scary.
Wham recognizing that threat. Wheelbarrow coming in for himself as well. Wanting the boost to the eco, he is out on the map, so having villagers that run a little bit quicker definitely could save numbers later on, especially with these knights prowling about, hungry for some kills. Meanwhile, in the back, man, Anotand just very well set up here. Feels like the spawn has very much favored Anotand thus far. I mean, I don't see what he's missing right now. Eventually, he's going to need to move out to gold, but even then, he's got some around. That's closed off. If you look at the mini map, if you can kind of see it, if it's closed off on the mini map, it means it's closed off in the actual game too. So that tree does block that entrance.
And knight exchanges here feel fine because you're going to be able to charge in, do the damage, get out, and chivalry is on the way. But Anotand, he's putting a lot of knights on the field and thinking about castle, and I love this. We're just getting a pure knight composition. We're not seeing an archer transition that we usually see, which means prolonged feudal most of the time. This man is going castle, and I really hope we don't get the Royal Institute, because I want to see late game French, especially in the hands of Anotand, but he's going for the Uwu instead, and just going to try to get the army to get out of position as he moves one of those knights to go and raid.
I love that. Split one away, just get more information. Try to split up Wham, tax the APM. That's exactly what an experienced player does. Wham's going to know this is probably coming. He won't be surprised when it hits him, but still a good choice nonetheless. Now, for Anotand, I'm just thinking like, man, with this knight build, is this not just the most pure version of French that exists? Is this not just the way this Civ was meant to be played? I mean, just knights, nothing else. What else do you need? Just open up a stable, spam W. That's all you need. Now, whether that actually works, I'm being a little facetious, but goodness, it's kind of fun to see.
Now, Anotand's a team game player as well, and this is a strategy we've been seeing from them for such a long time, but this was before the spearman's ability to actually kill knights. So before this, it felt like you were always in a tough spot, even with a huge amount of spears. You would not be able to really break through the knight mass, and with the right amount of charge, you get a lot of work done. We do see a spearman there on the ground, body disgusting. A knight claimed his victim, but now he needs to go and heal up. And Guildhall coming out, he's playing it safe, he's being responsible, and making sure that he can keep the action going. But he does need to be careful, because if he just keeps investing into knights, this can be so difficult. But the horses collapse. The problem is just Torguds have such low damage that villagers don't look like they're going to be dying anytime soon. Oof. And already losing so many of his units. They're diving so deep. Usually you feel like, okay, I can dive this, I can kill villagers, but this is not the dive you want to take with the limited amount of units you've got.
Reasonable idle time, though, if there's a silver lining to taking the damage he has. Hasn't lost too much, though, either. I don't know if he lost a whole lot out of that. So maybe that was worth it, just given the idle time and a couple of ill kills. He's up 5 kills to nothing. I mean, you don't like that if you're French.
Now that does feel a little bit tough. And I mean, he's only getting those archery ranges in now with the amount of spears he's got. He's got nothing to do with those knights. Those knights idling out for a second there, not the greatest look. Oh, but they turn and fight, and another one gets caught out. Now he does pick off yet another Torgud, but these knights, they are not looking like they're in a good spot right now. Turning back, getting another kill. It's pure Anotand.
Even the wolf.
Oh. Anotand is just showing us he has come here to fight, and he's doing a fantastic job at it, and loses 2 knights. Never mind, I cursed Anotand, guys. I apologize for giving him any compliments.
That was a rough go for the knights. Meanwhile, Torgud's Wham doing an incredible job. I mean, I said at the beginning of this game, it's going to be about how much damage you can do back to the French. If you can keep them busy in your base, that alone is a win, because you do not want them in your base. You do not want the knights on your side. Keeping Anotand tied up at home has bought Wham so much time, and now Castle Age is not just on the horizon, it's on the front porch.
Now, when you get into a spot where you're desperately trying to make a counter unit that is running into you so clearly, it's pretty tough. These orbs cannot come any quicker, and the horseman switch up is already so smart here from Wham. Wham showing us an absolute masterclass of how you are supposed to play the Golden Horde.
There's the age up coming in. Wham, showing us exactly, like you said, exactly what you're supposed to do. It's just like the Anotand hasn't been able to be the aggressor. French is so reliant on being the aggressing Civ. They like to do the damage. And we see now he's trying to do that, trying to get into the base right now, which is a dangerous time for Wham. He is aging up. He is trying to buy some time here. These knights are not very welcome right now, but thankfully, this is a very, as you like to say, responsible castle with the spears in place to defend it.
And these villager idle time, it's fine. You're getting a little bit of idle time from your opponent, but you're not losing that many lives. Now, of course, there was a bit of a casualty here and there. The problem is just the knight numbers are still pretty healthy, and it doesn't feel like Wham has that access to food that we saw earlier. And it's starting to get worse and worse for him to be able to defend this. Now, with that being said, the ARB numbers aren't too scary just yet, but it's getting to a point where I feel like Anotand might feel comfortable enough, slowly starting to move out. And he does this with the villager, trying to get a little bit of control on the gold as we hear the gold depleting. So that Bill a little bit far out right now, and he's going to be taught a lesson about overextension pretty quickly.
Yeah, rip that villager. And more coming in. Oh, bad timing indeed from Anotand. More villagers also running into those same units. Now, with Castle Age almost upon both players, Anotand getting his upgrades in, archers will be up here in just a second. The ARBs are a really good unit here for this. Now, against spears, maybe not the best, but I do like what Anotand is doing. However, these spears making it just impossible to get any damage done back. That's kind of what he's looking for now. He's looking for a way, going, okay, I'm down 7. I get a couple extra vills just because I produce them faster, but I need to get some damage done. Make sure Wham doesn't get too far ahead.
And with these knights, he's just trying to keep him busy. He's trying to get a little bit of delay going for Wham's food too. But you can see this is starting to become pretty low income overall as the sources are starting to deplete. But Anotand's going to have that exact same issue pretty soon. So ARBs and archers going to be the name of the game for now. But these knights need to stay alive. And Anotand is showing us every now and again he has a little bit of weakness. Just to drop a knight into a spear mass every now and again. He has to be careful with this because these guys are not getting replaced. And as I say that, I see a bunch of idle knights. They are taking a lot of damage there at the spears, but luckily here at the base, the horses are kept under control.
Reminds me of the fable of the tortoise and the hare, right? Like, yeah, the knights are fast, but if they keep taking breaks to take a nap, that slow and steady turtle mass of spears is going to get on you eventually.
Now, that one singular stockyard is not going to provide food for a whole army, but these knights are doing a great job of getting that idle time, especially on a boar. And you know, when your opponent's on a boar, you need to put the pressure down. The problem is just, you are not getting any damage done, and Wham is just pulling further and further ahead economically.
It's incremental gains, right? He's not doing any, there's not been one fell swoop that's gotten Wham super far ahead, which means Anotand hasn't made any drastic, dire mistakes per se. What it's been is Wham has been winning just in stacking wins on top of each other. Small wins, but he's stacking them. And as you go, eventually the scales start to tip. And we're starting to see that here in both the numbers and in the resources. He's just tipping those scales little by little by little, winning the small battles and skirmishes to win the war.
Now, quickly, we are starting to get to that point where Golden Horde has crossbows themselves. When you have a chunky frontline composition full of spears to protect you against those pesky knights, and now the crossbows are going to start to one-shot these knights. This is no longer a position where we see French as the banned French we fear. This is, like I said, it's a masterclass of how to play Golden Horde against the French. And I'm so glad Wham is here to teach it to us because it is looking fierce. Now getting +2 ranged attack as well, he knows he's going to need to find some way to actually do damage to these units. And the amount of spears he's got, even ARBs are going to struggle with that.
Dive coming in just in time for a keep to meet them. A couple more villagers might go down here. Otherwise, yeah, those can't stay around for too long. But again, even just Wham placing those 2 spears in that relic down there on the eastern corner was so smart. Just heads up plays. It's thinking ahead like that and taking little actions that give you and net you those wins later in the game. And Wham is just an expert at that. That's why he's one of the best. Even if he gives up an odd horseman or Torgood there, that was a good little surround. Knights, though, cannot stay. That spear mass is just too much.
Every small misstep, Wham is showing us how to capitalize on. I just love the fact that Wham is finding a way to keep up with Anotand and that insane mobility that Anotand has on offer. The total 10 villager kills is just showing you us how to deal with French. You have to catch them out. You have to force them to make mistakes. But now Wham's composition is looking scary. The ARBs, though, ARBs are pretty much unmatched as far as most units go. So, as long as he doesn't bleed too much of his front line here, they should be doing all right. Now, you can see Anotand is getting a little bit desperate to make plays happen, but it doesn't feel like he's in any form of control here.
He should have an ace in the ticket in the guild hall, which is now at 2,000 resources. So this is his winning ticket to get out of jail free. That's his hope, is he's banking on buying time for that guild hall to propel him into age 4. The only hope is that Wham will hopefully not stack too many wins before that time, and he needs to make sure he sustains himself with the resources around him. So this spot right here is critical. The gold, the boar, Anotand really wants to keep that so that way he can take those resources from the guild hall and then spend them on not only the age up, but then all the required upgrades and units you'll need after.
Now this big blob, it feels like it can hit anywhere, and it can really do the damage. The question is just, what does Anotand... Ooh, I was going to say, what does Anotand have behind this? But he's got a red palace, and he's desperately trying to get that thing up. The thing is, this is age 4 without really age 4 fear in the heart of his opponent. French usually gets into a position where age 4 is a very threatening move. But that red palace is very defensive. It's on the tiniest gold imaginable, and it's not the French you fear going into Imperial. He doesn't have the gold for anything. He is just going to be a Castle Age guy with an Imperial Age tag.
At least at first, right? I think the hope is here for Anotand that he holds long enough to then make use of that. The trick is he has to survive, and this is a pretty good mass. Wham has been stacking small wins. I think he's looking to add a big one to the list of win column. He's going to send this huge mass straight to it. He probably already has an idea of where it is.
Now, with
if he didn't, he does now.
Oh, that's quickly how you find out, just by face checking. But this is also going to tell him, hey, that's not scary whatsoever. I actually just get to run around and live my best life. So now he goes for the base. He is going to try to find some damage elsewhere aside from the Red Palace. And this is the beauty when you are a professional player. You're not someone who's going to be like, hey, maybe I should keep fighting into this Red Palace. So definitely not going to be taking any bait or any risks for himself here. He's got to make sure that he himself gets to Imperial Age, and it's going to be pretty soon at that as the Knights get another charge in, but nothing lands as the army is in position.
Wham needs this gold. He's sitting at 3,000 food. He can get to Imperial himself, or he could be flooding units. He hasn't really done either. He's also not at max pop either, so he needs to kind of choose to do something. It feels like he's kind of in between a lot of stuff. He's probably going to go imp here in just a minute now that he's on that 8k gold, so it's imperative that he stays protected on that spot and continues to harass Anotand where he can. Once he gets to Imperial Age, then the tricky thing is, can I outlast French? Can you grind French down even while they have the guild hall? The best way to do that would be to tighten the noose, as it were, and just kind of take the outside resources. Making that guild hall not enough is kind of the hope.
And with this huge amount of units on the field, it feels like Anotand is pushing out when he's not the one who's supposed to be pushing out with all those orbs, but he feels like, I need to at least decap the sacred sites here. Stone army's coming in, and when it hits, it's gonna start to feel even scarier. Now, taking a look at that army, yeah, this is a real Imperial Age man. It's someone who has units who are gonna be able to get upgraded, and sure, our orbs are Imperial, but Anotand, he is going to have an uphill battle the moment that the imp hits for Wham. Wham already stacking up quite a bit of resources here and having a ton of horsemen on his side. These orbs are quickly going to get cleaned up.
Could our observer take a look at the, Vodka, if you could take a look at the relic count real quick. I haven't had a chance to clock that. I want to take a look. 3-2. Okay, so nothing too much to talk about there. I just was curious if there was any skew on that. Having the sacred sites for as long as he has had, however, is a nice boost to the gold that Wham's had. And again, French, very, very gold hungry. I imagine that guild hall, once he gets the farm transition fully up and online, will go straight to the gold.
Oof, and you can see that horseman. Oh, the horseman numbers are going to get so scary with the spears there as well. The orbs cannot effectively kite. Sure, they've got the melee armor once everything is in place, but these guys are not going to get the moment for that as they pull back and just quickly getting picked off along the way. Crossbows doing amazing work from Wham here on the back line too. Horsemen trying to clean up as much as they can, and we get the cheap shots coming in from every single angle. He doesn't even need to wait for Imperial Age. He's going straight for the kills when he is given the opportunity. But now Imperial Age is hitting, and the upgrade is going to be shortly after. 2,000 gold in the bank. he's ready for it all.
Wham has been playing a little bit cautious here, but I actually like that here. Not going all the way in, not diving the base, because he knows I got a bunch of upgrades. If I just wait about a minute, I can come back with a way stronger army without any extra additional cost. And also, this Red Palace was really good for Anotand in that it gave him a little bit of gold. It's not good in that the rest of the base is extremely exposed, and despite a really good early spawn, it's looking like more and more of a curse later as the game goes on.
Now we see still a knight or two just trying to make magic happen, but time and time again this army of Wham is just in every single place they need to be at the right time. Now, you do get a few pickoffs, but Anotand is at 800 food a minute, while Wham is floating at 1.6k. This man is living his best life, and he's almost at 200 supply here. This is a very happy camper, and nothing Anotand can build right now seems to be able to match this. Now, Sacred Site victory wasn't really the big win condition here, but it just doesn't feel like Anotand is in a position to decap this without losing anything. Now he's starting to split his army up. You can see some yellow dots trying to find their way to decap too, because this can quickly spiral out of control. But flaming arrows are coming in hot, and these orbs are going to be hitting quite differently.
Not much has gone outside of the initial spawn. Things have not gone great for Anotand here. And it's not like any one point was a make or break for him. It's just been death by a million paper cuts. Wham has just been playing that precise and that cautious. I've said it a couple times now. I'll say it one more time, and I'll probably try and not keep repeating myself. But Wham's been stacking those wins, and now he is very, very well ahead here. Has very good map control. All the upgrades coming in. Tons of food. It's looking like it's going to be tough for Anotand to bring this back. Now, Anotand has 50 ARBs, but Wham has double the military count.
And sure, the sacred sites are decapped, but it feels like, hey, this is fine. You decap the site, but let me just take control of the rest of it. Now, that second TC from Anotand is putting him in a spot where he's slowly catching up to the Vils. But at this point of the game, it doesn't feel like this is something that will be enough to catch up, because you can see the food is looking great for Wham. Now, Anotand is slowly getting his farms up and running here too, but there's one thing to mention here. Golden Horde is quite susceptible to actually being raided under that TC. It's still just a regular all TC. So with a big enough blob, you can quickly make things very difficult for your opponent, but there's no blob. The problem is, there's no blob from Anotand to be able to do any raiding. The knights are picked off completely, and these ARB numbers are scary, but
You mean to tell me they're not raiders? You mean to tell me that 60 ARBs can't just walk under town center fire and raid really fast?
Not yet.
Darn.
They haven't buffed them like that yet.
Oh.
Because you know how we do with crossbow-like units, right? We just want to make sure that they're strong and can take on anything, but not today. Not yet.
I mean, ARBs are already one of, if not the best unit in the game, or at least they were before this blast patch. I mean, I don't think anything's really changed. But yeah, they're not really meant to stand and fight underneath oppressive fire from TCs. But moreover, the moment they move out, the real problem is that Wham will just swoop right in. So not much going here. And Anotand now out of gold. This is probably the make or break point. Is the guild hall can maybe supply a little bit, but it's just not enough to sustain the Civ long term without some kind of supplement. Everything else being equal, it would give him the edge. But when Wham has complete map control otherwise, that gold is going to be a serious hindrance to Anotand's ability to win this game.
Now, with Anotand just trying his best at getting that mass even bigger, he's trying to get the ranged up defense here too, because he realizes how important this is going to be. Oh, these poor archers just getting picked off, the last of their lives, all just falling apart. But these orbs are stationary, just one spot waiting for someone to misstep, and that someone, he is not looking at making that mistake. You just see Wham getting himself into a spot where he's got so many resources in the bank. He's got the ability to replace his army even if he does make a misstep, and university upgrades to boot. So soon enough, this is going to be a pretty rough fight here, but we do see the university upgrades coming from Anotand as well, and he's starting to get ones that put him in a spot where he can transition to different units.
I mean, one thing Anotand has done really well here is, you mentioned that second TC. It might not have felt good at the time, but Wham has been playing so cautiously that it's bought Anotand time. He's evened up the economy count. He's now at max pop. They are both at full supply. And now, with a farm tradition behind this, as long as Anotand can find maybe and get a second source of gold, he'll be okay. He can at least hold this for some time. French is a difficult civ to kill when they're fully online.
Now, with this fight, we can finally see if the orbs are going to be enough. You just see them firing their arrows at the speed of light, and honestly, it looks like the trades are going pretty decent. The V's deployed, but now they need to move, and the crossbow numbers are pretty scary here. Now a Siege Workshop coming in, he realizes, hey, maybe I need something for the back line, and sure, the orbs did okay, but now it's crossbow and crossbow action, and it feels like Wham's pure number mass is going to outweigh this completely. Now Anotand forced into that horseman composition that could have paid dividends significantly if he switched earlier.
In an ideal world, Anotand would be fighting that fight under the Red Palace. Unfortunately for him, the Red Palace is pretty much as far from the center of the map as you can put it. So it makes it a tough situation. The Arbs we saw on display are a very good unit, but again, once you start trading crossbow on crossbow, it's not a good trade. And Anotand doesn't have a lot of room to make mediocre trades. They need to be good trades for him. Wham, meanwhile, slowly creeping forward. See, this is now where the snowball comes into play for Wham. He's been patient. He's been slow and methodical. Now he needs to continue to creep up and build towards Anotand's base and then start pushing in like we see here from the other side. Bill's running for the hills. That is his only gold node right there. And there's probably not a whole lot of gold left in it anyways. Actually, can we take a look at that? How much gold is left in that? About halfway. Okay. Yeah, not much. Not a whole lot left.
Now Royal Bloodline's also coming in. It shows you he has been very much switched away from any horse composition here, but now horsemen are going to be the thing he needs to, and he just doesn't have the resources to even upgrade them properly. Now finally getting the upgrade clicked, but there's only 10 horses and it's a huge army of Wham. The swarm is here, and it doesn't feel like anything Wham or Anotand can offer can take this down. There's no siege to deal with the back line. The front line is just getting on top and destroying everything they see. This horseman switch from Wham is disgustingly good. Karash actually doing a pretty decent amount of work too.
Wham has just systematically picked apart the French this game. And not that it was just a slam dunk from the beginning. Like, again, he's done it methodically, slowly, calculated. And we're seeing the end result of it here. He's finally just built up so much of a lead, pushing in at the right point, not overextending, and now, despite a healthy ARB mass, Anotand just doesn't have an answer for this, really, as Wham just dives deeper into the base, looking to find the villager kills, wanting to absolutely execute the remaining economy.
And he is doing such a great job at that, as he's now under anything and everything. And even with the TCs having all those Red Palace bonuses, they do not fire rockets, and you're gonna need an AoE rocket here because these guys are not dying to anything. Now, trying to get them into a corner, but the thing is, Wham is already ready with the replacements. As you see, his population dropping a bit, but quickly getting replenished as he needs to. The food income from Wham, or from Anotand, is going to be plummeting any second now, as he was not able to utilize those farms for quite a bit. And now with the siege of the front lines, he needs to find a Hail Mary to try and take down this type of push.
I'm curious what we have in the guild hall right now, because that determines whether or not Anotand can actually mount a defense or not. Nope. Yeah, that's game. He does not have enough. I think he used what he had to hold this as long as he could, but with the guild hall now spent, it is pretty much hopeless here.
And with these poor little villagers just desperately trying to get back with the resources in hand, you can see Anotand, he's got 45 of these orbs, and he's just hoping to get the best trade of his life. Now Wham, he is struggling a little bit with the food replaceability, and that's why I like the fact that he's getting into siege as well, because up until this point, he's been pushing with just HP units. Now, all of a sudden, you're getting a few bombards in the mix, and your pushes are just going to become so much more destructive, because now you don't need to sacrifice as many units into orbs to be able to kill something.
I like that he's got some bombards in there. He needs to start tearing this base apart. The faster he does that, and I like that he's hitting all these barracks. He needs to hit... Barracks probably not the most important thing here. He probably needs to hit everything else, but he'll tear down what he can get his hands on. The faster he tears the base down brick by brick, the sooner Anotand will give up. But at this point, Anotand's sticking it through. He wants to win this game. I don't know that there's a way to do that with the guild hall having been expunged of its resources. But with 3 bombards sitting here just firing at will, it looks like Wham has this one pretty well in hand at this point.
Wham is just looking for those final moments to secure this, but Anotand losing with French here. This is, I say losing with French, as I'm predicting now here at the front. But with the bombards in the base, we're feeling a little bit confident about these, but you have to consider, now he's got to ask himself, this is one of my best civilizations. Did I just underestimate the sheer power of the Golden Horde to overwhelm when I am used to being in that driver's seat? You can see those desperate horsemen just trying to get the damage done, and sure, he is thinning this herd a little bit, but you just see those purple dots streaming towards his base. Still 4,000 gold in the bank, and these units are not stopping anytime soon.
Like he's pulling the bills to repair the bombard. That took a little bit of damage there. The next target really needs to be that guild hall if he can get to it, but he's probably going to just looping around, taking things out that are closer by. Front line mostly gone, but reinforcements coming across. We see that defender's advantage coming in a little bit for Anotand. Takes some time to get your new units to the front line. The bombards, in the meantime, just sitting between the archers and crossbows, just wreaking havoc.
Now the bombards a little bit out of position here now, as the front lines have been thinned, and of course this does give a little bit of breathing room for Anotand to try and kill this, but behind it again the replacements are there, villagers are pulled to try and repair them too, and the reinforcements have arrived, and this time these reinforcements don't have an answer. These orb numbers are dwindling, and now down to, he's gonna have 45 pretty soon, but you don't have the gold. Always say you don't have the gold, but he somehow found some gold very quickly, just trying to get an answer to this, getting himself a cannon as well to try and snipe back.
That was a Wham on the gold, not Anotand. I think he is kind of toast, actually. Yeah, that was a Wham gold. That was Wham's 8k. The best thing he has, I think, is the guild hall that he's just saving up on.
Yeah, Anotand had
that one right there.
Anotand had a little bit of an influx there. I wonder if he used... no, he just pulled from the guild hall, yeah. I was wondering if he was trading. He was like, oh, I need the gold. But, yeah, no, this is getting a little bit rougher and rougher for him. But with his cannon now, let's see how long he can keep this thing alive. Wham, though, just, he sees this works. He keeps the composition. Puts in a few spears in the mix, too. To just deal with those pesky horses.
Yeah, I mentioned a couple minutes ago that French is really hard to kill, and it's because the guild hall just keeps giving you second life. It just kind of extends you. And sometimes it can get you out of the jam and help you win the game. In this case, it's just extending this game. Without gold, normally Anotand would just kind of crumple in, but with the guild hall supplying, every now and then that dividend he needs to continue, it's prolonging what felt like an inevitable game, which still seems like a decided game, which Wham is being careful not to throw away. Now he's got 4 bombards on the field, and a Sacred Site victory behind this, now under 8 minutes.
Now, the Sacred Site timer is going to hit a little bit differently now, because you now have complete map control. You've got a few towers there, and all of a sudden your opponent cannot just bleed a unit between all of it. You are pushing in on 2 victories at the same time. You're killing the base, you're starving out, and you're just making sure that these sacred sites are making this even harder. You can see he's feeling confident, even as a stockyard all the way out here. This man is not under duress whatsoever.
Don't look now, but 100 units on military for Anotand. Like, is there like a world where he can come in, wipe off military, and somehow landmark snipe Wham? Is that like, it feels like an incredibly long shot with what he has here. Most of the army's mass is 60 arbs. And again, we've already discussed how arbs don't exactly tear down buildings.
Now these bombard numbers, now with him having 4, it feels like they're just going to be one-shotting anything that's there stand in front of them, and gets another beautiful shot off here. Now this is just the slow death push, but the numbers have swung a bit. When it comes to the population numbers, you can see that Anotand is now on level with Wham, but it just still doesn't feel the same, because Wham just has full map control. He's got every bit of resource that he would need. And Anotand is here on a very suboptimal composition for himself. Only the guild hall providing the goal he could ever dream of, but unfortunately bombards are doing the work pretty quickly.
It just feels like Wham is just not able to break through, though. Like it feels very stalemated. Now, thankfully for Wham, 6 minutes now on the Sacred Side timer. There is an out. So I guess he still has the win in the hand, but it just feels like, man, this is rough. Anotand with French, just holding on and digging in, waiting to see if maybe he can find an opening. Maybe if there's a way he can wipe this military off the map. Maybe he can decap a site. Like, I'm just like, trying to think of, like, if you're still playing, Anotand still feels like there's maybe a chance to win. You don't keep going if you think there's no way, unless you're just really wanting to waste everyone's time. Anotand thinks that there might be still a chance, and he's getting on top of the bombards right now with some horses and knights. One goes down. You get the other ones.
Oh, this is beautiful play.
Make that 3. Make that 4.
Anotand just showing us that this man is not done holding back, making sure the Orb horseman composition that French is so feared for is showing us exactly why. Cleaning up most of this. Wham does have the reinforcements coming, but Anotand, he's got his very, very cheap army that is replacing at the same rate here. The food is on level, the wood is still supplying just enough, but now it does feel like the reinforcements have arrived and it can turn the other way, but again, the Orbs are just pretty good.
Orbs are really good. The question is, what's the follow-up? Wham now producing like crazy. He's sitting on 7,000 gold. Man, you might need to sell some of that off just to get some more production going. Feels like Wham needs some forward production or something to help stem the tide of this, because now his military number is dwindling very quickly. Anotand staying very stable at 100. He's doing what feels like the impossible right now. Guildhall supplying him just enough gold to keep moving somehow. He's got the food income to keep doing this as long as he can maintain the gold and not lose too much. He's actually pushing across the middle of the map and standing on the sacred site. How long can he push back? Is there a way he can come back and win this? It looked like he was on death's door, and now taking some very competitive fights here in the middle of the map.
Those fights may look competitive, but the problem is just if you overextend here. I know there's a sacred site timer ticking, but it's so easy to just overextend and quickly lose a bunch here. And it looks like this army is slowly getting cleaned up a bit. The horseman numbers just continuing pouring this way. Anotand's not keeping up with this production at all. And Wham looks like he's finally pushing back yet again. Sacred Site still ticking, 4 minutes now. And Anotand, he gave it a push of his lifetime, but it looks like the horses are back on the menu and they are destructive. These Orbs doing a pretty decent job at handling them, but there's not a lot of replaceability for these guys.
This is why sacred sites exist in the game. Like this right here, this scenario is why they exist. That way it forces your opponent to not just sit in the stalemate and turtle. It forces something to happen, or you have the timer that ends the game. Because otherwise, I felt like Anotand could have sat there and defended this position for a very long time. He pushes out even, but just can't overextend, can't leave with that defender's advantage. And now with 3.5 minutes left on the sacred timer, it feels like there's not much left. Anotand's, to his credit, still trying to fight it out. Knights moving to the other sacred site.
Now, these knights trying to decap... Oh, now I feel like there's a difficult part here. That these are horses. So these horsemen are starting to be scary enough to do this. But that sacred site is very much not protected. And I feel like this might be the one instance where Wham maybe has let the ball drop just a tiny bit in terms of having that secured victory for himself. He had the ability to secure this map pretty easily, and now the horses, they do need to back off, but these are showing little bits of weaknesses in the sacred site hold. Now a horseman just standing on top villages trying to make sure that this thing stays capped, but it shows you now there's a little bit of a plot hole here and there, and it's starting to rear its head. Anotand, he needs to be in all three places at once to try and find a way to decap this. There's 2 minutes left, but it is starting to get even scarier.
It's buying him such precious time that he needs. I think these spears might clean up the horses, though. That's going to be enough. But now the center being pushed again by Anotand. He is giving it a go. He is really trying to make this work. And to his credit, he's doing a good job of holding at this point. He might be able to get the decap on this one. Maybe. What he's doing at best right now is just holding the timer steady and not letting it tick down too far. But it's down to 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Not a lot of room to wiggle around with here. Anotand getting surrounded. This could be it.
Now, these guys are doing their best at just trying to clean up what they can. The horsemen coming from the back line here, and it does look like they are going to be able to stand on this site, but the Sacred Site timer is still ticking for some reason. The horse is now reinforcing here at the front, but the problem is those purple lines are everywhere. There are Rebaldaquins coming in to try and handle these horses. The Orbs providing a bit of a front line as well, but 2 minutes on the clock, and it doesn't feel like these Sacred Sites are being stopped yet. Even the villages are pulled.
I love the Rebaldaquin play, just a little too late. Really fun to see our Randy out on the field. Got a couple good shots in too, but it's going to be over here. This is it. Once the villagers start frontlining, you know what the fat lady's about to sing, and that is GG called. Anotand, a noble defense. Heroic even, but not enough for the sustained map control that Wham had and the chokehold he had on the gold. Guildhall can only get you so far, and it got Anotand quite a ways, 45 minutes almost. But in the end, game number 1 goes to Wham.
Now, thinking about where Anotand was at a point in this game, I am very worried for Wham for this series. Anotand looks like he's ready to fight to the death. And he has shown us that even though he was completely on the back foot, he knew exactly when to pull back and then when to push out at that right moment. And honestly, if Anotand just had another bit of gold access, I feel like there might have been a bit of room here for taking that down, but maybe this is why we've also been seeing Golden Horde not be allowed on all maps. They have been looking a lot more decent recently, as players have been figuring out how to play them properly. And on the hands of Wham, I would be fearing all day. But now we do have Kawasan. Finally, a different map from our usual. And getting Japan on that with a Zushi to match, oof, I think this is feeling good both ways.
Yeah, you gotta imagine both players are pretty happy with their civs on this map, which means we're probably in for a very, very good match again. We've already gotten one incredibly tight back and forth. Now we're gonna get another one possibly here on Kawasan. I'm excited to see it. I'm still just, man, reeling at how good of a game this first one was. The word that comes to mind from how Anotand pushed through is just tenacity. Just kind of keep trying to keep going. And there were a couple points, and I agree, if he just had a gold vein, had another access to gold, maybe he could have done something with it. Wham's a really good player too, and we shouldn't take anything away from him. He played very, very careful, very methodical. In the end, it paid off. He got enough ahead, was able to hold on to it however loosely in the end, gets the win. But now we have to, of course, the crazy thing about these long 40-minute games is then you got to reset and go all over again. So Kawasan, Japanese, and Zushi, if you had to pick one, Wham, which one are you preferring here on this map?
Well, keep in mind, there's a very big difference between me and these guys. And if I was very good at this video game, I would probably like myself a little KT, as I've been seeing what they can do, especially with the Sacred Sites being so split. You have usually a pretty big commitment to shutting them down with the movements. But between the two we got, Meditation Garden doesn't work the same way it used to. So... And Japan has shown us again how nice they can be on a water map. You have so many cards you get to play, and the Shinobi play can shut down almost anyone. You can get control so quickly, and with Wham being the one on Japan, I think Anotand is in for a rough game. Now, we haven't seen the new Zushi on water, so maybe they're still good. They used to be really good. Are they still the same powerhouse? Yeah.
This map in particular, they were pretty good. We'll see. Obviously, the changes to Meditation Gardens this last patch. Be interesting to see. I agree. I think Wham with Japanese on a hybrid map like this is particularly scary. I would not want to be the guy facing off against him in that situation, but Anotand gets to be the lucky one to do that for our entertainment today. Down by one game with Zushi. I mean, Zushi historically was good. The question, I think, we're sitting here scratching our heads going, we don't know anymore because of the changes to the Meditation Garden. That's going to change the build, which means we can sit here and guess all we want, but we really just got to see the pros play it to see what really pans out. It's going to be up to them to set the meta for this and see how it feels post-patch. So we got 30 seconds before we dive in onto that. You guys are watching The Elite Classic number 4, hosted by EGC TV. You're listening to the voices of Whammin over there. I'm Stockton over here. Big shout out as well to Magical Cow in the background, taking care of all the things, as well as Vodka, our observer today. I just want to give everyone their kudos. been a fun day. We're about halfway through today. We got 2 series done. We're in the midst of our 3rd, and we've got 1 more after as well. But let's go ahead and get ready to dive on in. Game 2 coming right up.
If we're lucky, guys, we might even see a mountain clearing today. So let's see if Anotand is able to take the W here, as this is his map choice, of course. So Anotand is someone who's always fallen onto this map as one of his comfort picks. He feels really good about what he's able to do here. And honestly, I feel pretty good watching him here too. The amount of plays that this man has pulled off, it feels absolutely legendary to see. But Anotand now, he doesn't seem to be going for water. He's going straight for gold. We're just having a standard old Japanese lifestyle. Oh, sushi. Sorry. Sushi's lifestyle without any boats, which makes sense. You're up against the Japan. My head just switched both these civilizations around, and Wham gonna be living his best water life, which makes sense. Sushi, Civ that we've seen time and time again, they just go for the age up and go from there. But the Zhangyan Tower, now we have a big question mark. Is it going to be the landmark of choice here, as we've been seeing in a lot of the pro games recently?
And obviously with the cheaper fishing ships, happy to be on a hybrid map like this. Zushi, do we get a pro scout play here? What are you feeling from Zushi?
No, we can't afford that. We can't afford
it.
That. No,
I know,
this is water, brother.
I know, but they're not going to get to go in the water, so you want the deer. I'm being silly, obviously,
these guys go on the water nonetheless. They are the type of civilization that will go for feudal into the water. That's the beauty of the building speed, Soccerton. These Zushi players, they get to dock and they get to make boats, and then they get control.
The interesting about the spawn of this map is it's always fun to see how these different maps spawn. In this one, we've got a lake that's shared and a lake that really neither of these players own. So the lake that's closest to them is the same lake. Sometimes you see spawns in this map where each player kind of has what we would call like their home lake, like their side of the map. In this case, there's no such thing. It's you got a map to contest and another one to contest, equally distant from both. Nobody has an advantage on one or the other, but obviously Wham already on to the fishing. That does allow Anotand to get to age a little bit faster, of course. He's already got the Jingang Tower going up. No more meditation gardens. I'm really curious how different this Civ feels without it. It's been such a hallmark of the Civ with that build, with the gardens. Now without it, it just feels so different, doesn't it?
The Zhangnan Tower, like I said, I'm a little bit untested for most of us on water to see how this one will play out. But you can already see Anotand thinking about, hey, I need to go and dock. I need to make a play for the water with 6 on wood already. That's either going to be a production building or a dock. And I'm really, with the Zhangyan Tower, I feel like we're about to find out, because 7 on wood, just enough for you to keep this going, but with 1 age up, you still have a pretty good timing here anyway. You are still Zushi's legacy. You build the speed of light Bakaka Township with 5 now. So this man is of 6. He's hoping to get there quickly because he realizes the threat of the Zushi, and the villager is pulled, so we know exactly where he's going, and he's going to the water. The man is in the water.
This is going to be a very contested lake in just a couple seconds here. It's tough with a very, very forward dock from Wham. Definitely claiming his side. But now we see the second dock, and Wham immediately sees this go down. So he knows exactly what's coming. Got the Coca Township. We are going to see some ninjas.
Now, these ninjas, the question is just whether they are going to make it on time to sabotage this dock. Because this dock is now going to be the beginning of all problems. But the boat coming on in, and Coca Township is still a mile away. So the first boat will make its way out, but with that, Wham is going to be able to build his first ship as well once the wood delivery is on in. And then you have a little bit of a face-off here. But of course, you are going to be in a position where you want to get that Springald ship because you know the Archer ship is already making its way out there. And that's exactly what happens here. Coca Township about to finish. First boat's out. Anotand, though, is he going for the second boat on the water? He does. He wants to get as many out as he can before those ninjas arrive.
First shots fired here. Anotand wasting no time trying to contest this water. I want to kind of talk about the Jinjing Tower as well, because it is different. Everything's been reworked for Zhu Xi, just in case anyone at home maybe doesn't know or hasn't really read through the patch notes. The tower basically acts as a tax drop-off first and foremost for Imperial officials, but the more interesting part of it is that military buildings and military units produced within the influence around it progress towards free military units, free armies. Each one requires progressively more resources to be spent than the last until you get 12 different armies produced. So it produces things like City Guard. It has like mixed force armies that kind of pop out. Think almost like armies as in like a Wind Guard produces an army, right? It produces like a mix of units. So very different than what it was. Obviously it used to be kind of one of those plays where you'd play it and you'd get units as you built more production buildings for units. Now it's very different, as we see firing from the ships going back and forth, both looking a little beat up there after that engagement. And the first ninja on the road towards killing a Vil. Wow, that was brutal.
That is a distraction. And I mean, with all of this happening, you can see just a lack of focus in every single point, which is completely standard. You can't be everywhere at the same time. And Wham's demo ship has shown us that is the price you're gonna pay. The moment you look away, these things will spiral out of control. But that galley, to keep it alive, is going to be so important to just keep the ninjas away. But Wham is slowly going to get control back of this lake as he has a double dock. The question is just, is there going to be a little bit of land presence that causes a lot of problems? As we now see that first Zhu Xi unit making its way out.
Good old Zugnu. The kind of unit I love to hate. As in, like, they're really good, I think, when used against me, but not good when I use them. You know? Yeah, you ever feel that? They're a unit I hate seeing when I'm playing against them, but regardless, Anotand almost swept up off the water. Wham. Desperate to take control fully of his lake, as it is now.
Now, very quickly, we see the lake action being given up. Anotand realizing, hey, my Zhu Xi that Sokoton hates so much is going to be the refuge for my life. And now we also see that response from Wham. He knows he needs to get some units out. He's got the water. He's going to be able to get that income going for himself. But Anotand also securing his own lake there on the north side. So even though he's lost the battle on here, he knows the investment has been made by Wham to secure it. So it doesn't feel too bad. You know your opponent has invested a significant bunch in keeping this lake in their name, so as long as you can keep your lake safe, this is going to be fine. Especially with him triple docking, he wants to get those fishing boats out at the speed of light, and he is going to do exactly that. But now a tower on the gold, and we know what that means. When Japan pulls that tower on the gold, it means it's party time.
Yep. Meanwhile, though, Anotand quick to get on top of that. Horseman on there and some Jugunu coming in. This is going to be kind of a close play. Can you get a villager or two down from this? Looks like he'll get maybe one. And denies the tower. Yeah, great timing from Anotand to get on top of this. That's going to slow Wham down considerably. He's going to have to send some reinforcements to try and retake this spot of the map. Some frustrating pressure if you're Wham, and some good timing if you're Anotand.
Now, the horseman just getting a little bit of damage is already pretty significant, but you can see, ooh, the Jugunu. The issue is when you start walking out with the Jugunu, you start feeling a little bit confident. All right, these guys are peppering away. Then all of a sudden, a single horseman is going to take you down, and this is exactly what's happening here. Anotand feeling a bit too confident with those Jugunu, now getting a spearman in the mix as well. I'm loving this for Anotand. Already ahead with units, because of course, now he's getting himself a lot of fishing boats, and eventually this might just go very well into his favor, being the Zhu Xi. But now Wham is the one who has still 5 on gold, and he gets to go either way. He's getting another shinobi here, but that 5 on gold can very quickly turn into a castle, which Anotand just doesn't have the units to handle.
Yeah, I almost kind of wonder if that'd been a better choice, right? I mean, it's easy to see when we have the God vision. We can see it all. We see the whole map. These guys are playing in the fog of war. Hard sometimes to make the perfect calculation. Maybe it feels like to get the gold to go castle would be better. But in this case, they're duking it out in feudal and they stay there for the time being. Horsemen trying to deal with these jugs. They are pesky, but horsemen even more so at this point. And we see the ninjas going around sabotaging the docks. What a fun mechanic. Obviously slows down the production of boats. They've been killing some Vils here and there as well, though the villager kill rate is pretty even across the board, it looks like.
Wham doing a really amazing job at just having map presence absolutely everywhere. But this horseman commitment that he's made, it does feel like the right one. Anotand hasn't been producing units constantly except for these Yuganu, and horseman blind counter is feeling good. Now out here on the DSO, you see, no pro scouts needed.
No pro scouts.
He just gets to go and snack him.
It's always fun to suggest that one on a water map just to see people's reaction. Especially back when Pro Scouts was like the meta for land maps for a while, and then you go to like a water map, be like, hey guys, you gonna Pro Scouts?
Oh, you're just invoking the trauma of the mass audience. Nice. But one thing I want to point out is that Anotand's reinvesting into his scout, and this is something that I respect of the man. The man going for his scout, making sure that he's not going to go in blind, because there are those little stealth forests that people keep sneaking in and out of if you aren't careful here. But oh, those horses already on top of it, wanting to shut that down pretty quickly. Now, with Wham already going into archers, he's going to have a decent answer at what Anotand has on offer. But the few samurai in the mix could spice things up even more. But +1 range attack coming in, meaning the Jugunu are not going to mind this too much.
This has been a game of lots of skirmishing back and forth, lots of small groups, no huge armies from either side, as we are now just past 11.5 minutes in towards the game, well into feudal age. You start wondering who's going to make the first move to castle, who's going to blink. It's been all feudal so far, and I'm looking at Anotand, he's got 400 food in the bank. That's, again, like kind of that middle zone. You got almost 200 gold. You could kind of start saving, or you can keep investing. It's kind of fun to see those numbers tally up and down as we reach this point. Anotand, though, building a pretty healthy mass up the middle. Like I said, it's been skirmishes thus far. Once you start seeing the armies coalesce into big forms, that's when you know they're about, one, they're about to start really throwing down, and two, castle age is imminent.
Oof, and these little small pickups that are coming through, it is looking a little bit difficult here, because you can just constantly see these guys getting picked off. But now, with just a handful of horsemen, Wham is showing us how much control you really have on a map. I love the castle age timing here from Anotand, though. Wham is investing so much into this army that will get directly dealt with a few castle age units, especially considering that they're most likely just going to be a bunch of very chunky knights running his way and making his life a lot more difficult. But with the amount of fishing boats we see here too, he's trying his best to just stay pretty consistent in the food. The problem is just the overfishing is going to come in clutch here, and that food economy is going to plummet at some point.
Anotand looking to click up here in just a second. He's just about got the gold he needs, and there it is, Montaloo Academy coming in. So Anotand got his army all together. It means he was ready to defend what he needed to, and now he's moving up into Castle Age. That's why he's kind of backing off as well, not pushing too far against Wham. Now the question is, how does Wham respond to this, right? He's got his own fishing side. He was thinking originally of, like, you know, towering up that gold, getting on there, but he hasn't really had time to save up. He's been making so many of these shinobi.
Now, these shinobi are expensive. They're powerful in the right ways, and he's definitely slowed down a significant bunch of the economy, but it hasn't really done enough for that investment and delaying that castle age with the gold value too. But it has kept him busy, at least. Now more Jugunu on the way, and we see that is the upgrade choice, of course, and we're getting a few lances in the way. This is going to feel good. As Anotand's units come on in, you don't have a response from Wham just yet, although the pure ground samurai should be okay for now.
I think he's got enough time. He's got the resources, and he's going to click up. There's the floating gate. Yeah, he's got the resources. He's got the mass. Castle time it is. He's going to match the timing, and then we'll reevaluate from there. Right now, both sides have their pond. This one, though, getting kind of pushed. The Jugs. Anotand wasting no time trying to hit the fishing ships to some good effect, too.
Now, you can see those Jugunu just cleaning up what they can. The problem is they're standing pretty close to the side, and I was about to say, this can be devastating if he looks away for a moment, but Anotand is on top of it and quickly moves away. This could have been devastating for him, but luckily, he's got the speed of, of many. He's just making sure that he impresses all of us at the same time. Horsemen now going to be catching the villagers, aging up, and quickly get another, I was going to say kill, but more than one here. The villagers just putting themselves into a spot for a little
They've
bit
got
of
the
raiding.
monk. They've got the monk. The first Yoroshido just gets saved. That was incredibly close. Losing that first one would have been such a delay for Wham. Keeping that alive, tossing him to the TC, that was close.
Now, very difficult for a person to come back if your horse production is going to be slowed down that much, but Anotand, he's the one with the age advantage for a little bit longer with all of these units being upgraded, and Wham doesn't want to take this fight just yet. He needs to wait for these upgrades, but there's going to be a few guys in the tower that might be in danger. The Jugunu get a pretty decent shot off here, but the Lancers are on the front line. The thing is, these Samurai, they just got their upgrades, and we're getting +2 armor pretty quickly, so the Jugunu, they might just fall off a little bit faster than Anotand has hoped for.
I don't know the exact time it takes to get another Yoroshido out, but losing that first one, I'm still thinking about that close play as Wham pushes back the army of Anotand and gives himself some more time. Losing that first monk with the Yoroshido in hand would have delayed him, I think 330 seconds is what I'm looking at here. No, that's meditation gardens, excuse me. Loading gate, it doesn't say. Every 2 minutes. 2 minutes. That would have been a huge delay to have if you'd lose that first one, because the first one pops out the moment you build it. Losing that and then getting 2 minutes delay right in the early stages of castle would have been a huge pickup for Anotand, and kudos to him for noticing that and trying to make it happen. Wham able to just sneak away with that, and here comes a nice... Oh, he missed the explosion! Ah! That was so close. The demo ship just missing its mark and then blowing up to no effect. Man, Wham winning by little seconds. Those tiny victories, man, stacking up once again.
He is showing us the beauty of just being so precise. But what I'm really loving about this is now Wham's economy on water is going to be... It looks a little imbalanced here, but of course this is also because Anotand is out there on the deer, he's on alternative food sources. But Wham's food is going to be a bit more balanced there on the water for a bit, as Anotand has overfished significantly. We can see the fishing boats running around quite a bit there. But overall, Anotand's still in a great spot. Anotand is having the time of his life for most of it. But now the Mounted Samurai are going to make life a lot more difficult. Usually, you feel a little bit confident to fight against the horsemen, but Mounted Samurai do not hit that way. And Lancers don't have that deflective armor to make them as scary, and we do see them having to back off. These Mounted Samurai are truly showing us how scary they can be if just left ignored.
Yeah, Mounted Samurai, clearly the superior unit as compared to Zushi's Lancers. But all things else, this is a fairly equal game, and it really could go either way. Anotand's been slightly ahead at points. I think Wham has done a really good job of holding at other points and has gotten a little bit lucky as well. Sometimes you need a little bit of luck to win these kind of games at this level, as the Zhugs trying to shoot down the ships on the lake. Anotand not content to only have his far lake. He wants the close one too. The explosion kills the entire squadron of Zugunu in a one quick blast. I was wondering if it would happen, and it did, immediately dropping about 12 to 15 Zugunu in a blink of an eye. Wow, that was an incredible explosion and a great play by Wham.
And it's just showing you again all these small things that you can lose track of. Anotand showing us he's fast, but everyone makes a mistake. And gets some demo shots of himself, so he does get a boat, but that boat is gonna need to do a lot more. We can see the army just trying to torch down these docks. They need to do something about it, because these demo ships are gonna be annoying and just disrupt that food economy that he's so reliant on. Anotand's food now finally taking that plummet I talked about with the overfishing, finally showing its head. But at the same time, he's still got the army to handle this, and he looks away for a second. Wham did not bank on this, as we see the Lancers on top of the archers. Quickly, crossbows now gonna be the main composition here, and they are making quick work of what Wham has on offer.
And another explosion on the other side. That only kills about 4 or 5. Not quite as big as the first, but again, a good answer from Anotand saying, hey, you're not the only one who could do this, you know. Cleaning up the military from Wham. I was gonna wonder at first if Wham had won this fight, I would have maybe claimed that another explosion. Goodness, the demos are just going left and right. I was gonna say that if Wham wins this game, that explosion might have really tipped the scales in his favor, but Anotand with some solid answers of his own, not content just to take it, but willing to dish it out as well, as another demo ship going for some fishing ships this time, and are going to land.
And
Eco
that is
from
a
Wham
crazy
just decimated.
shot. That was a wild connection, and I mean, Wham just realizes this is not the game I can be staying in. Moves on to the next, realizing that Anotand. Yeah, this was up and down. Anotand losing that big shot was okay because it was Jugunu and he was transitioning into more of a crossbow composition. Wham's countering was more geared towards the Jugunu. So with that crossbow switch, it was definitely at the right time. The water pressure that was constant threw him off. But Anotand playing an amazing game, showing us again why this is such a safety map for him.
We've got ourselves a series in our hand now. 1-1, Anotand ties it up. That was a dramatic final couple minutes both ways. Fireworks on both sides.
Fireworks because of all the demo ships, right?
And the good plays on top of that. But yes. Particularly the demo ships, which I very much enjoyed, and I hope we get to see here in the replays. Man, what a great game by Anotand to answer. After taking a really tough loss to Wham last game, coming back and able to just chip away back, make the good plays, get ahead, fight and contest the water. Great plays all around. Here's that demo ship. Look in your bottom right corner. It's going to come out here in just a second.
Oh, waiting.
Here it comes.
Waiting.
Here it comes. And go. The slow-mo too. Wait.
Oh, no,
this
was the second one.
We just got baited. It was the second one. Oh,
it was the second one. It was the second one. Ah, Cal. We can just, guys, in the chat, please blame Cal. Oh, there we go.
Beautiful.
Praise him. Change it to praise, boys. Look at that slow motion. Disgusting. Now, this is the difficulty of playing next to that water on Kawasan. These have been monumental fights time and time again, but look at those crossbows. They were the right switch at the right time, and Wham, still sticking with his composition, just wasn't ready for any type of switch like that, and he got his own little demo ship to turn the tides for himself.
That's actually a really great takeaway too, in that the micro is important in this game, but more important time and time again is the macro. It's the strategic decisions you make. What times you should switch into a new type of unit, when you can go up in castle, what the timing, that's what really matters. The micro's fun, that's where we get a lot of the flashes and the bangs, but the strategic aspect of, hey, I need to go into crossbows to counter what my opponent's doing, that ultimately wins the fight for Anotand in that game.
Now, there's an elephant in the room, and it's not Delhi, it's not Taklak, it is the fact that we have Katie on mountain clearing. And I don't know what to make of this. I feel like I'm sitting here doing calculations, trying to understand, but Katie on mountain clearing, there's one sacred site. It's basically in your base. So pilgrims they're not the answer here. This is not the play. There has to be more to it. So from what I've seen from some of the practice games from the top players, I haven't been seeing KT chosen. So clearly, I haven't been watching Anotand's games. So it does feel like we are about to find out some very interesting plays here. I can see why House of Lancaster gets sniped here. House of Lancaster feels like a pretty solid pick here in general. It's not a civ you're gonna want to give the chance to just gather in nice little round spots where they can get bonuses. But Ottomans being let through? I'm also pretty surprised about that. You get a pretty safe amount of resources in your base. You get to tick a little bit your economy, your military schools. So I'm surprised to see that Ayubid snipe over this.
That is very surprising. I think I would rather face the Ayubids here, genuinely. But I'm also not Anotand, and I'm also not as good of a player as Anotand is, so I don't want to criticize too hard, but it makes us wonder back at home going, okay, what is it about that affects that decision? Like why not take Ayubids? Like what is it about Ayubids that you don't want to face? We might not ever get to know, but I'm curious. We got a minute before we enter into the Thunderdome, which I'm very excited for. This map is just so unique in that there's just no room. You are just right on top of each other. It really is kind of like a cage match in many ways. The AoE 4 version of a cage match, if you will. But I on paper, I think I like Ottomans better. I don't know what it is about KT that I should be super worried about on this map. It just feels very counterintuitive as to why they would be better than, say, I don't know, Byzantines there or Sengoku, putting anything else in mountain clearing alongside Lancaster. I don't know. It's an interesting choice for sure.
I mean, this is why they are the top of the top. They're cooking things that most of us will never be able to comprehend. So Twitch chat, I'm sure you guys already have all of this figured out. But we're going to be seeing what KT actually gets to cook. Now, Ottomans, we've seen on this map before. Ottomans has always been, whenever we have one of those weird maps that people just sometimes like to throw into the map pool, you're like, oh, this could be fun. And you just throw that one in. Ottomans does well on all of those. They've been showing as a staple in all of these, but mountain clearing is especially that. So now let's go find out what the KT plan is, because there's one big difference here. Ottomans doesn't get to eat the boar. So does KT now go directly for the boar? No, they don't.
The only thing I can think of with KT is they get their fortresses. That's like the one thing. If you can get that towards the middle, that'd be really good. So maybe there's a play there. I don't know. Ottomans has quite a bit going on for them, though. Goes for the early stone, immediately hops back in the TC and moves across. It's always a fun little trick to do. As we dive into game number 3. Wham and Anotand are both tied at 1. Wham in the purple as Ottomans here on the western corner. And in the eastern corner, in the yellow boxers, it's Anotand.
And Anotand, in his yellow boxers, he is snacking on them deer. Love that for him. See, this is the beauty of the map. You have access to so much food under the DC, with all the sheep being in a pretty decent spawn for pickup. The difference here is, could we take a quick look at the gold? So 3 days ago, I believe, we got some changes to mountain clearing specifically for this event. And now you don't spawn with a massive gold under your TC. This is now just a normal old gold. So it's something that the playstyle will definitely need to adapt to. You can't just be HRE sitting under your base, putting a tower on your gold, getting a relic, living your best life. You actually need to strategize and move out on the map for this. So I definitely think this is a massive change for the pro players to plan around.
Yeah, it takes away some of the easy solutions, right? You can't just turtle up on your little nook of mountain clearing. I think it's a good change for this level of play, especially. I mean, I want to see these guys with... I like seeing these guys play with the maximum amount of adversity for our sake as viewers. It makes it much more entertaining. I love to see we have deer pushing still, alive and well, lest anyone thought that got nerfed into oblivion. Which is, on this map, you might as well. It's so close to the TC. Get that food home. You're going to need it.
Now, with all access to the deer, you just don't run out of food. And this is, again, a very nice position for most civilizations that love to go fast castle too. And Ottomans already just feel like a civ that benefit from doing such a thing pretty early on, because you already get units for free from your military schools. So you don't feel that same level of pressure. You can also just spawn your nice little imams and try to make a play out there for the relics early on. So it's going to be on Knights Templar to force plays. But with the amount I see that he has on wood, this man is already thinking about something similar here too. Making sure that he is going to fight in feudal and force this man to do something about it. Twin Minaret Madrid is coming out, and it shows us that he's also just prioritizing the amount of food he's going to need as time goes on.
I'm so excited for about 2 minutes from now when we get to see what really goes down. Early on, it's like just waiting. I'm just like waiting for this to really get underway. Not much to really look at the moment, but I'm very excited to see how this dukes out. This map's a lot of fun because, again, we don't even need to really say it. Just because they're so close, we're just going to see some fireworks here in a little bit.
Now, Anotand scouting, making sure that he doesn't get any surprises here. Now, of course, with the age up only coming through, there's still a lot of time for being surprised. But Anotand is going for a straight up wood and food situation. So, there we go. Archery range is our first situation for ourselves, so we're going to be getting some pushing. Wham sees this and he's going to say, hey, that's great. I'm going to make the best unit in the game, and we all know what that is. That is a nice old Sipahi.
All right.
Look at these villagers.
We're getting underway here. Villagers are building their stuff, almost up to age 2. Units crossing the map, and I've got one question for you, Wham, and for all you viewers back home. Are you ready to rumble?
Wow. That was
Cow
big.
Wiley wanted me to do that. I don't know why.
Now, this boar, the boar is getting angry. We see scout on scout action, and unfortunately, this is going to be a little bit annoying to handle. That scout is getting dangerously low, and I was about to say a spear hit could end him, and that's exactly what happens here. But what I like about this, with these archers, this man clearly was intending on pushing out. It doesn't necessarily mean pushing out and going into the base, but it does mean making a play to the middle of the map. Wham just shut that down completely. So now you're getting into the sacred site territory where you're trying to shut down that pilgrim that is all coming in for free. I would love to see what the income is on that pilgrim.
It can't be that much, right? There's not a very far way to go. I don't even have a guess for it. I can't even picture what it would be. That's such a short distance. At any rate, walking around looking to get off that gold. We'll take a couple pot shots at the villager. Instead, you're griefing the deer. Actually kind of smart on this point, you know? Don't want to give them any extra safe food if you don't have to. But in the meantime, they're going to retreat back to the tower. That tower is just such a good spot for Wham. Just to really hold down that spot. Because I would be worried about Knights Templar maybe, well, probably putting a fortress in the middle of the map at some point if this goes on for any length of time.
Now, with these guys just trying to make a little bit more of a presence on the map, you can see the archer numbers steadily increasing. And against the Sapahis, this doesn't feel like something that is going to be too great, but at the same time, you're not under too much pressure just yet with the numbers that we see here. Now, the spearman numbers are going to start getting scarier, but you see the value for Wham to keep control of this middle is very, very clear. Getting the tower upgraded too. He's got his spears in there. He knows what he needs to keep safe. And just going to be playing that nice old feudal game now, making sure that he gets his value and a huge amount of units all for free.
Wham cashing in his Vizier point, getting the 2 Imams. Probably the best choice in the current meta, I would say. Obviously, Anatolian Hills has been moved to the 2nd tier now. And how much does that pilgrim have on it? We click real quick. Let's see. If it's going to live, 69 gold.
Nice.
All right. I'd say that's still worth it if it doesn't, just die like that.
Evaporating. Yeah.
Evaporating, yeah.
Now, the nice trickle of gold that you would get from this, it feels okay. But now, with Wham being the one putting the pressure on the map, the thing is, this was his map pick. He knows exactly how to play this. He knows the strengths. He knows the weaknesses. And now, Anotand, with the superior army for now, is just going to be the one pushing out. The Imams here need to make their way back, as losing these could be game-ending this early on. But he knows Ottomans takes over time.
Ooh, that was only a matter of steps, too. They were flirting with death a little bit there, but getting away safely enough. And now Anotand wrapping back behind the base, not letting Wham have access to an easy gold. Wham trying to hold on to his spot there. We got the 2nd military school now on the field, and out come a Sipahi. Imams trying to keep the Vils alive. This is quite the dive here from Anotand.
This is a massive dive, a huge investment, and we have seen games end like this, but he looks pretty confident in all this. Both Imams are still being kept alive, and now everyone is just going right under the TC, living the best night. That Hospitalier Knight is living the dream, apparently, just going all the way, not worried. Imam gets taken down, villagers are now the aggressors, and the 2nd Imam will also pay with his life. This is massive.
This was a really good dive for Anotand. It's delayed at Wham so much. Killed the Imam, so that Vizier point just gets wiped off the board, essentially. And the idle time, the amount of Vils killed, 5 villager kills now. That feels substantive, doesn't it?
Now, losing this huge amount at this stage of the game it's big.
Yeah.
And Knights Templar all of a sudden now feeling like they are the ones in control, which I think none of us expected here. The singular Knights Hospitalier is the only investment we see for this guy. He is just going for more archers. Apparently, Sapahis are not that great if you can get enough archers. We do see the food was a bit of a struggle here for Wham, and now finally I understand the Madris being such a priority. And now the ball getting pulled. Anotand, he's feeling a little bit more confident here. Is he going to take down this ball? Yes, he is. Putting it in a safe spot. Going to be snacking on that for days.
Kind kind of crazy what losing 5 Vils does to you. I'm just looking at that number, like losing that within 9 minutes. If you think about it, losing 5 is almost 2 minutes of TC production wiped off the board.
And now a ram in the mix as well. So he gets access to the boar. Wonderful. And he gets another Knight's Hospitalier. But a ram in the mix too. And I kind of like this. Purely because he's getting control, of course, of the middle. But this ram is not just a ram that shuts down the middle. Or gains control back of the middle. This is also impending doom of another feudal attack that is imminent. Because he is still not touching gold. He's making sure that he's producing non-stop. And those military schools, they are going to go down so sweetly when given the chance, because those imams are gone. There's nothing that is going to support that army in their journey of staying alive. Sabahi is now trying to find a few stray villagers, but not able to find any victims just yet.
Yeah, Anotand looks really well set up here to push in again whenever he's ready. I mean, middle's been a back and forth contest, but now with it on his side, Anotand's looking really good. Feels like that push into Wham's base really put him back a couple minutes. Archer's now getting ready to move out. Yeah, I mean, I think at this point, with the boar secured, with Anotand with a massive bows, he's got the ram ready to go whenever he wants to push into the base. I'm a little worried about Wham. I feel like Anotand's in a very strong spot right now.
And Anotand realizes this, is also going for castle out of this. Instead of staying in that feudal for too long, he realizes that boar income is too good to let go. Wham is the one struggling for food here. With the deer being at the front of the base, it does mean that a lot of this food access has been cut off completely. And now getting +1 range defense, this is not range defense because you're TC diving someone. This is ranged desperation defense. You know that there's an imminent attack coming and you need to be very quick about it. The thing about Knights Templar is they get their age up so fast as well. So this is just going to mean he gets the castle pretty quickly and Wham is going to have very little time to respond to this.
You know, we haven't really talked about it too much, but the choice to go without cavalry here is actually a nice choice on a small map like this. Because cavalry excel at larger space. That's why they're so good at team games, right? The maps are so much bigger. You got to travel way farther. Having infantry comps just doesn't work as well. On a map as condensed as this, you don't really need the cavalry to be able to get across the map in any amount of time. It doesn't affect you as bad as it would on a bigger map, and it's really being put to effect here by Anotand. As Wham, trying to contest the middle once again, is finally moving out. That's going to force Anotand back a little bit. He's going to leave the board there and send the villagers home for the time being.
And sure, this gets shut down, but Angevin Empire coming in 15 seconds, it couldn't be at a better time. Now, Wham is going to be in a position where he feels like, hey, I need to attack, but at the same time, keeping his options open. With 12 on gold, he's thinking about going for castle himself. The problem is just, it feels like he is moving into a spot where he needs to do damage. Those Sabahi now going around the back, and of course, when you're up against the Knights Templar, you know that you're going to get a sneaky villager or two on a wood line, especially with this wood line being so far away. But he doesn't want to risk it. He plays it safe, he pulls back. He's seen people make this mistake time and time again, but heavy spearmen are going to be so tough to handle when they start pushing.
Wham is still at least a couple minutes away from Castle Age, which is a tough spot to be in when your opponent's got an equal-sized army and is now aged up ahead of you. It just feels like there's not a lot of room for him to get value. He's got now the heavy spears out on the map. Maybe he can get something on these archers, but there's just a lot of units around. Sabahi try and take a couple out. They get one, but lose a Sabahi in the process. Man, doesn't feel like a good trade, does it?
Losing a Sabahi against these very feudal archers, but they're about to be castle ones, and those Sabahi are going to melt like butter. Wham now not aged up yet, and he's about to take a feudal on the castle age dispute, and the Mechter at the back, and this is the formation struggles with the Ottomans. You have to stay on top of this at all times, and quickly these archers making their way through absolutely anything and everything in their way, now feeling a lot more confident to go in under that TC, not a worry in the world.
Istanbul Imperial Palace coming up, but it feels like it might be castle into GG for Wham. He is back on the ropes, trying to hold this fight off if he can buy himself some time, but it is not looking great. Archers on archers just dishing out damage. The meta is gone, so no bonuses there to be had for Wham. Tapahi trying to pick off some reinforcements, that might help buy him some time. But again, the numbers are just so much in favor of Anotand. This does not look good.
So Wham's home map, this was his safety. This was his strategy. Him getting Ottomans, massive. Anotand came prepared. And honestly, I think a lot more prepared than any of us expected. With all the doubters in the chat, including me, on the Knights Templar, I am left completely baffled and shocked at how well Anotand had played this and read the situation perfectly.
Yeah, he did a really good job, and it's hard to point to any one thing. His best thing I think he did was that push into Wham's base at the perfect time. He just got in, did some damage, delayed Wham so much, it enabled him to get up to Castle Age and then just leverage how far ahead he was.
Now, these guys are doing such a good job at just making sure that their opponent is surprised by every single move. Like, most people would not be expecting an 8-minute dive under the TC just for the lives of the imams, and you can see how valuable this was. Getting these imams at this stage of the game just completely set the pace for that harassment and denial that followed soon after. You can see those berries that were there a little bit south from here, they were completely untouched by the time that Anotand arrived in the base, because Wham for a while just felt like, hey, I'm safe. This is just something that I don't need to think about right now. You can see here with the villagers being pushed off the deer, already just killing the deer, knowing exactly what your game plan is, he made this look easy. But guys, we have Baldland with this time with two men with very, very strong hairlines. Anotand on the Sengoku though. And honestly, getting Sengoku on Baldland, this is going to be a fun one for him. But also, on the other hand, China, it's been banned before here.
It's really good on this map. Again, banning a Ubid. I think another reason for that might be because Anotand's a Ubid, or sorry, Wham's a Ubid is very, very good. So that might, I'm thinking about it more and more. Wham is a really good Ubid player. So China is more reasonable on this map anyways too. You know the meta for it. Sengoku is really good, or has been, but I don't mean this is a huge negative detractor against Sengoku. It has been brought back down to earth. We were talking about that about an hour or so ago. It's not, on paper, it's not quite as bad as it was before. It used to be just incredibly good, but now hopefully toned back a bit. We'll see how it fares. But in the meantime, a look at the matches of Group B. We've got quite a bit filled in here on our little score chart. MSN and BC currently 1-1.
I'm so glad Cal read our minds, because I was sitting here thinking, how is the rest of the bracket going? And MSN already taking a game off of Beastie. I am so excited for this kid. He has grown into such a strong player who can take down a lot of top players. And this is exactly what we want to see. Him taking the game off of Beastie, I can't even imagine how crazy that series is already. B, winning his game, as we saw earlier. Lucifron struggling a little bit against Numidan there, which is a little bit of an upset considering Lucifron recently got second in an S-tier event.
Numidan's actually got, I think, the best record so far right now, 5-1. Now he's only played Lucifron and Corvinus, but that's a 5-1 record you're not going to sneeze at. That's a great way to ensure you try to move on, is to win the games you were given. Looking at the other side here in Group A.
Now,
anything stand out here? Let's see. Who's got the best record? Marine Lord. Big surprise. 6-1. Okay.
And so
but Goalie Deckel won the first map against Marine Lord. You know, you mentioned watching some of these players kind of break in. It's been really fun to see guys like Goalie Deckel, who I remember a couple of years back playing in some of the low elo tournaments in Rising Empires. And now to see him, he rose through the ranks through that, got into the, like, played in some of the War Chiefs Club. And now to see him breaking into these, you know, premier tournaments, it's kind of fun to see. And then to take a game from Marine Lord, like, what a journey. And congrats to, Goalie Deckel for, Marine Lord's really good. So taking a game from him is already a huge accomplishment. I'm sure he's very proud, even though he didn't win the series.
I think for a lot of people, it's not about placing outside, let's say, the top 12. It's just about being able to do better than before. And we're seeing a lot of new names in the top 16. So Gully, MSN, these are players that, and MSN has been recently climbing significantly, but you're getting a lot of new names that want to prove themselves, that want to break out of that top 12 barrier. I feel like there's a line here. Top 8, we have a pretty solid top 8, but that top 12 barrier is pretty much untouched for a lot of these names that we have here today. So, taking a game off Marine Lord, I think Gully is going to bed with a smile here, not with any concern in his life whatsoever. But guys, it's time for the Bold Land. Let's go see why China gets sniped here all the time, and why HRE got sniped. I guess just because we're gonna be getting some Dark Age shenanigans from HRE if they were on offer, but I'm actually surprised to see China being let through instead.
The machinations of their minds are difficult to parse out sometimes. But in the end, we're here at game number 4. Wham does have Chinese in the purple here in the west. And in the east, Anotand in yellow does have Sengoku Daimyo. Right now, though, this is match point for Anotand. He is up 2-1. So if he wins this one, he wins the series. And that would definitely go a long way into securing his position to move on. But yeah, we dive in. I like what Cow said. There's 12 people in the top 8. That's very true. That feels very true at this point in time. There's a lot of guys who are kind of hovering, and any given day, one of them looks like they're really there, and then there's a couple other guys who are just equally as good.
And we'll find out how greedy and good Anotand needs to be against Wham's China, because now Wham picking Boldland, he feels confident enough on this map to take on Mr. Anotand here. And giving him Sengoku, we'll see why these two were the top 8 before and in their different places that they were. This is what the crazy thing is when we get to these S-tier events. Anyone can take the W. It doesn't feel like we have Marine Lord taking the S-tier victory every single time. Now we have a lot more factors coming in that turn the game one way or the other. And Anotand and Wham were both contenders for that spot. So both of these guys, I'm excited to see what they pull out, but Anotand is about to tell us exactly how greedy you get to be on Sengoku after the nerfs. He's going for his Yatai. What a surprise. And getting himself a little Tawara upgrade. No surprises there whatsoever. But that Yatai is so important to just that longevity of the food. But with China, you again have that civilization that loves to go pro scout. Is Sengoku a little bit too slow to shut this down, especially when China gets it so quickly?
That's the big thing I'm curious about here, and that's what I'm really excited to see, because it's almost a certain guarantee that Wham is going to go for pro scouts here. So I am very curious to see, is Sengoku now too slow? That's the big question here. Going back to what you said though just a second ago about Marine Lord no longer always taking every single series, I was really impressed when I forget what point it might have been a while ago, but he interviewing said that he actually likes the fact that it's not just him always at the top. It's more fun to have someone else like Louis when he took that series and won that match against Marine Lord last year. Like, it's fun to see some other guys take the top spot for a time and mix it up a little bit. So it's been fun. It's a good time to enjoy Age of Empires RTS tournaments.
Yeah, offering us a different variety of playstyles as well, because you used to have to follow an exact meta, an exact style of gameplay to get there. But now it might actually be even more rewarding to do it otherwise. And Cocker Township comes in. Now, I love the Cocker Township still being used here, because with the Cocker Township, I say it like we don't see it at all anymore, but it's just because Sengoku has been banned for such a long time. So now Cocker Township coming in, and I am really happy to see this, especially defensively. On Boldland, you might need these little ninjas to do the work and slow down these raids, because it can be ruthless once it starts going.
See, pro scouts should be coming in here in just a second. Wham already into age 2. Anotand, of course, not very far behind. Has he even built a stable yet? Can we take a look at Wham's base? I don't know if we've seen one yet. Got it just north of the wood line right there? No, it's a village. Maybe he's not. Don't say he's not going to go for. He's got to be still going for pro scouts, right? I mean, I joked on the water like, hey, pro scouts. But on this map, this is the meta, is to go for pro scouts here. So I am curious if there's something else in mind. I imagine maybe he's just getting there. He's just getting there. But we already see, though, Eric's coming out from Anotand. He's anticipating making some spears and testing anything that might be out there.
Now, with the spear answer already, I'm happy to see this because he knows he needs to shut down the pro scouts. He's not being greedy about this. I keep saying pro scouts, but I see, I see double broad axe and I'm not seeing pro scouts. So this is something we saw a little bit earlier in the day too, where maybe there can be a delayed version thereof, but the horseman answer already, it's good. You have a horseman on the field, you can go and raid, you can go try to shut down a little bit of what your Sengoku greedy goose opponent is doing, especially with those yatais already ticking.
What this also enables Wham to do is, if he wants to go take out those food carts on his own, that gives him a chance to poke Anotand right back too. So I don't hate the delay here, because part of the tricky thing with pro scouts is you get all that food really quick and then you eat it really quick and then sometimes it burns up really quick. I mean, you need the food one way or another, so you still got to go get it. But maybe pacing yourself just a little bit can help, and especially having some military to help defend that off the start as well. So we do see, and he's also making some spears of his own as well, which obviously against a civ like Sengoku, you can't not expect to have some cavalry coming out from Sengoku.
Now, Sengoku at this time might need a little bit more time to get the cavalry out. So with that, Bannerman, you get yourself into a spot where you're raiding. You are the one who is in your opponent's face, really, because you have such a good spot of just charging in, doing the work, getting out. So now, we do see our first little cart making its way home, and there's not enough horsemen to shut this down, especially not in position. So that bit of a bonus is going to taste so sweet for Anotand.
First engagement underway here. A Bannerman, man. Tough to deal with. Heavy unit. Very good for Sengoku. Sengoku has a lot of things. There's a reason they got nerfed. They have a lot of things going well for them. A lot of good eco bonuses, some really good military units, and then on the Chinese side, we do see pro scouts being clicked up. So yes, just a delayed pro scouts. We did see that in our first series of the day. However, a raid happening on the gold, is that going to be a down villager? Or did Wham get rid of it? Nope, that one goes down. Nice pickup there from Anotand.
Yeah, that feels like a pretty nice pickup to have at this stage of the game, because now just a little bit ahead, but also your economy is already a bit more boosted than your opponents. Now, Anotand adding a few archers in here could not be coming any sooner. He needs this, and he needs it now, because with this huge amount of archers coming out of Wham, you're going to need to find an answer pretty quickly. The Yatta is dying a lot faster than they used to, and it is actually quite rewarding to see.
That said, it's still kiting him a very long way home for how far away that was from the base. And it looks like it's still going to get there. However, some Shinobi in defense to try and slow down the units and give Anotand a chance to do some damage back. Wham has to back off a little bit.
Quickly making their way through and actually getting a pretty decent shot here. Absolutely disgusting to see how much damage that can do. The Daimo really doing the work, and archers just melting like absolute butter. You can see that blade slicing right through anything that's there. Step out. Even a little spearman just gonna be harming his shield until his archer friend dies. Never mind, they decide the spearman is the thing we need to kill and goes directly for it. Makes sense. You want to make sure that that herd is as thin as possible. Now, Anotand here, still nothing on the gold. He's gotten what he needs to, and now just going straight for units.
I'm really glad to see Anotand using the Shinobi. I feel like that's one thing when you go for that landmark, even the pros sometimes forget, hey, I've got this tool in my toolbox I can use to really help defend and to swing battles when I need it. As we see Wham going for a raid right here. But if you don't use the Shinobi, you're not getting any value out of the landmark, and you would have been better off going for the other one. So again, you've got to maximize the use of it. And I like that he's doing that here, and he's already shown that, hey, I can use that and save my food cart because I use the Shinobi.
Now, Wham's archer numbers are still pretty scary here. I feel like Anotand is in a good enough spot to handle this, though, with the units he's got. He's got a lot on food, which means that the economy doesn't feel too balanced right now, and it feels like the food is floating in a way that you're either going castle or you're going tech switch. But with the boys now back on gold, you know he's just been denied off of gold for a bit. And we see those purple dots just circling around his front gold. And a front gold, that's the curse. You're always going to be under duress.
From Yumi Ashigaru on the field to try and take care of some of those spears. Cheap, but effective. I like their bows. Little striped bows, black and white. It's kind of fun to see. Being used by good effect from Anotand here. Going to push Wham back a little bit and make him remass. Like you said, the forward gold, you got to defend it, but there's nothing, you can't not be on the gold either. Anotand now pushing out, realizing he needs to get some space between that army and his gold.
Now the horses trying to find a little bit of damage here as those wood lines are getting thinner. This is exactly the time for you to do so. And they do get a little bit of damage here as a villager and another, his friend, also going very, very low, but he knows where the value is, goes straight forward. Horseman's life is worth it. And 3 villagers going down, a beautiful trade.
3 vills for 2 horsemen this early in the game? Yeah, sure. Might as well. Every little bit helps, right? Going to force Anotand's army back to his base too. You mentioned early today how open this map was. This disgusting map, as you put it. Because of exactly what we're seeing here. And Wham is using it to great effect. He's just going to keep circling, like vultures, just circling around the base, picking off the weak ones where he can find them.
And now just getting a massive horseman is going to be a lot harder to handle, and he's doing exactly that. You see these Yari, they are disgustingly fast. Now Anotand getting himself into a little bit of a sticky position as he overextends. The horses are everywhere. Wham doesn't mind this trade whatsoever. Villagers need to back off. We've got the idle time going, and now he's got a kite backwards. A little bit too optimistic here with the archers, and the tower also getting denied. Pretty big of a pickup already. Now, this is just showing us that forward gold and not investing in a little bit of a defensive structure here, because a lot of time when you get to this point, you're like, hey, it's not that urgent, but very quickly it's showing us it's urgent. There's about to be...
It's not urgent until it is.
Yes. And all the bonuses just don't feel like they matter anymore, because your whole economy is already outside the range of the Matsuri.
Yeah, walking those Yumi Ashigaru straight into the welcoming horsemen was a bit of an unforced error on Anotand's part. Probably just looking away for the split second and then looks back and goes, oh, geez, what have I done? Which happens to, of course, all of us, but less so at this level. That was just an incredibly good fight for Wham. That is really set him up to now control the entirety of the map and now tighten things up. So when Anotand trying to pick off reinforcements, he needs to make something happen with this fight right here. Gonna get these 2 archers, then he needs to go and try and get some kills or slow down Wham in some other way, because right now things don't look good. And to, rub some lemon juice in the wound, Imperial Palace coming up in just a couple seconds for Wham.
Now, Imperial Palace feels like a pretty good time to have it, especially with the imminent danger of Anotand also aging up. The thing is, Anotand, he may age up, but he's still going to be in a lot of danger with all those units, again, circling the front. And again, with the archers, he oversteps, and the villagers need to back off. They have gotten the gold they can, but he just keeps on denying. Wham, with the impeccable timing every single time, shows us why his China is feared like this. But Anotand trying his best at just pushing this off. He needs to get the gold for this age up, but you can see he's just being denied on every single angle. Now sure, there's a few villagers that are dying, but Anotand, he suffered some casualties himself.
Biggest thing is he just has no gold. I mean, that's just horrible. He's being forced on the back. Wham is just tightening the vice on both ends, just not allowing Anotand to touch the gold. And without the gold, Castle Age just cannot happen. Like, Wham has Anotand in a stranglehold here. There's just not much he can do about it.
Now, luckily for Sengoku, they do get to sell and go from there. But you don't want to do that with those unfavorable trades, but he's got the resources he needs. Sake Brewery coming out. Now, I would love to see that position of the Sake Brewery, because of course you want to get it in the range of the Matsuri, but that Matsuri is very much exposed, and it looks like he's placed it right next to the TC if we look at the minimap. But there's an imminent attack coming, and those archers are about to be of the veteran variety, so he's going to need a lot of units to deal with this. But already bleeding a few Yaris. He needs to be careful with those bad boys, and he doesn't have the gold to keep on producing units that can actually handle this.
We've seen this game before between these two players. We've seen the French slowly get boxed in by Wham, and now we're seeing Sengoku slowly get boxed in by Wham. Wham has map control. I mean, minus these units that are patrolling for Anotand, but essentially Wham can go where he wants. Anotand is stuck in his base. Now, his base is going to be a little bit better with the sake brewery, giving him some extra gold income. But I just wonder if this is going to end up looking a little bit like that last game where Wham just continues to tighten his control of things until there's just nowhere for Anotand to go.
And with the amount of Yari he's got, you can see him actually going for the Yari upgrade instead. It looks like Anotand's just being forced into that corner you just mentioned. The villagers here onto the food, they are going to be the next victims, and a sweet few kills are picked up here, but these archers are scary enough to actually handle this. Now the shinobi's getting pulled and the archers slowed down, but the horse numbers, they're engaging before their castle, so this is not as much of a trade as they wanted. They are going to be able to come out favorably though, and they do finally make that connection, but the lancers are in position and ready to launch the counterattack.
The shinobi almost made that fight very, very good for Anotand. Instead, it's going to end up being a bit more of a wash. In fact, Wham probably will clean up there with that, and that'll be it. Yeah, the shinobi gave that a shot to slow him down, but with the lancers coming in, we have ourselves a tied series, 2-2. Wham takes this one.
And I'm really glad to see that we're getting a 2-2. And it feels neck and neck. These two are just showing us their true strength. But honestly, Anotand allowing Wham China. He was the brave one all along. And yeah, on a map like Baldland, Wham is showing us he knows to adapt. He's played this thing a million times and he will a million times more. Just be in control. The economy count staying so even throughout, but he was everywhere he needed to be to shut down whenever Anotand needed an advantage.
That was a quick game. Less than 17 minutes in, and it's over. We instead move on here in just a second to Coastal Cliffs. We get House Lancaster. Wow, what a civ choice there. You either get Byzantines or Lancaster. Anotand with a pretty good draft right there. Ayyubids again getting banned. Man, no one wants to face Wham's Ayyubids, which means essentially Wham gets to either play one of his favorite civs that he's the best with, or he can play whatever else he chooses, which in this case is going to be Rus. A pretty good choice on this map too coming up.
Now, these guys putting themselves in a spot where they get a very happy choice, and we've seen Rus on the map before. This Coastal Cliffs and Rus, they are just fitting together so brilliantly. But House of Lancaster, now again, we're gonna see why people have been sniping it the whole time. But clearly, we have a very clear verdict that Byzantines is still better than the House of Lancaster. We'll find out if that's still the case, because House of Lancaster looked decent earlier, but again, that was on Vortex. And Vortex is not as actively playing as Anotand, for example. So you'll have to see what Anotand has been cooking up, and if he has that meta completely figured out so that the rest of us in Twitch can understand what their brokenness is all about.
We'll find out here in a second. Lancaster had a pretty good showing so far earlier today. So did Rus, though. Rus had a really good defensive boomy 2TC win on this map back in our first series of the day. So, unstoppable force meets immovable object. Is that what we're looking at here? I'm curious to see and how that'll turn out. And you know, that's a pretty good way of describing both these two players as well. Both Wham and Anotand, some of the best in the game. And they're showing us exactly why. I don't think it's any surprise that this one has gone to 2-2 already and is going the distance today.
Now, what I really want to take a look at is when we load in is I want to look at these spawns as well, because for House of Lancaster, this is so critical in terms of getting your placements of your building correct. But Rus, they're not as dependent on their spawn to be able to last and do what they need to do. Of course, with Rus, you just need your wood line, and as long as it exists, you're pretty good. So we're getting that early game aggression, which honestly, I'm a little bit confused about. You're going as House of Lancaster against the Rus. The only way you're gonna get value out of this is if your Rus is a greedy goose who builds his hunting cabins outside the range of the TC. Wham, you greedy, greedy goose.
Oh man, just as you drew it up, right? Well, we dive into game number 5. We have gone the distance with Wham, and Anotand, and just as you said, the only way to get value is if Wham gets greedy. Well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I present you Greedy Wham Exhibit A. Look at those 2 hunting cabins. Actually, we can't quite see the top one. Can we move up just a little bit? There we go. Yeah, greedy hunting cabins. Actually, that might be just within the range. Well, kind of. It's definitely on the greedier side, I think, for sure. It's definitely forward at any rate. We do have a spear, 2 spears on the way from Anotand walking across the map. They'll be torching that front one down momentarily.
Now, with these spears moving into position, you usually question yourself and say, hey, I know in theory this is what can happen. And this is exactly what's happening. Anotand is showing us he knows how to exploit people's greediness, and now we are going to be in a really rocky spot here, because you have to consider that villager is also not super safe. You've got a sheep there, and that sheep is now dead weight as well if that villager decides to back off. You also don't have the wood that you can to repair this, and with 3 spears, this is going to be an easy cleanup.
I kind of like that Wham's just going to let his villager keep harvesting the meat from the sheep for as long as he can. Should be able to get back into TC range easily enough. It is just right out of view from the screen. But 3rd spear coming in. This hunting cabin will not last very long.
Now, with that hunting cabin being taken down, the next one is going to be following shortly after. You can see this thing burning so quickly. Golden Gate coming up, and you're going to need that Golden Gate for the gold. This is not the usual position for Rus. And honestly, this takes me back to the days of Gorge. I think this is where a lot of players also learned about the beauty of your hunting cabins being safe. There's always one that was a little bit greedier than the other, and players would time and time again just come and torch this thing down. But Wham says it's worth investing into. I need this gold trickle. So in a way, Anotand is idling out a villager for a significant amount of time already.
And resources too at this point. I mean, he's just bleeding wood right here, and the time he'd be gathering the food. So definitely a win. Worth the cost of 3 spears and the production building? Quite possibly, I would say so, especially if this thing goes down at all.
Now, the tower coming up too, and this is so early for a tower. Ooh, it puts it a little bit more aggressive. I was about to say, this is a very defensive tower too, and it doesn't really cover the wood line when the harassment starts coming, especially when you're up against the yeoman. So if you're on your wood line against yeoman, you need that tower to be as far out as possible. But this tower will protect his hunting cabin and put him into a decent spot of survival.
One of the hopes you have when going Dark Age and being aggressive this early is that you elicit, it's almost like being a bully, right? You're trying to elicit a response is what the goal really is. And I would say Anotand has elicited that response. He would have liked to have torched the cabin all the way down. But regardless, he's forced Wham into a bit of a precarious build, having to get that tower, maybe not in the most ideal location. That's a win. And Anotand still has these spears to play with and do other things afterwards as well.
Now, these spears are already putting themselves into a position where they can deny anything and everything that dare step out of this base. Is this spearman going to be able to sneak in? No, he doesn't want to take any risks. Oh, the villager's hopping inside, but that's a pretty big spot to take risks in. You are safe to walk in there, kind sir. Now, of course,
it's psychological, it's psychological wall right there.
a psychological warfare.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that was a good pun. I give myself a high five for that one.
Come on. Where's the confetti for that one?
Apparently not getting any of those. Feels bad, man. Nice. Hell yeah. So, IVF King's coming out, and now you gotta look at the resources. We have 5 on stone, and a little bit earlier today, we saw a little bit of 2TC play. Is Anotand about to bless us with the same? On this map, I feel like you get to put it pretty safely without getting punished as much, and you're gonna start snowballing pretty quickly. Although, Wham, he's playing Rus. He's playing a civilization that does pretty well at catching up on a second TC when they need to. That Golden Gate, it just provides any trade that you need.
He's pretty heavy on wood, as would be expected for Rus. He's got some archers in queue, so he's going to have to deal with those spears momentarily. The tricky thing is those Lords of Lancaster. How is he going to deal with those in Feudal Age? Because once you get a couple of those on the field, they're tanky, just tanky enough. They're hard to deal with. Now, Wham could counter with some knights. That would work well against the Lords of Lancaster. The tricky thing is you got to make sure you clear the spears out that are going to accompany them.
Now, deleting... Oh, I was about to say deleting the mining camp for a second TC. Very nice. And in a very safe spot here as well. You don't want to put the TC too far out because you don't want to take any unnecessary risks. But it's nice seeing that you're putting Rus in a position where they need to go on gold. I feel like now the second time today we see Rus touching gold in a game. And I'm loving it. A feudal age Rus mining gold, it feels like a humble Rus. At the same time, we have still 2 villages on stone here, just making sure that those manor numbers are going to slowly increase from 0 here. Oh, and look at that second TC from Wham. And that's what I said. You get to follow this up pretty easily.
Using the boar as bait, trying to get him onto the archers. Will it work? It will. Boar does do some damage too, and the wolf also joining in. Boy, Gaia has decided to join forces with Anotand. That TC will go up, however, and it's in a nice spot. A little bit open, but it's on some really good resources right there.
Now, this first manor being placed between those 2 TCs makes a lot of sense. You're going to put a ton of farms between those 2 as well. It's going to be a safe refuge for your units, but also a faster castle following up. And this is where my big question mark is showing. What are we doing if Rus starts to be aggressive here? Is this not going to be a little bit risky when the units start arriving? But at the same time, I'm not producing a ton. We don't see anything in the queue. We do see professional scouts coming in, I believe. And maybe that was the play here all along. Oh, is that survival techniques or professional scouts?
That's survival techniques.
Oh, thank goodness.
I didn't want to say anything,
goodness.
but...
Oh my goodness. I was so worried there for a second.
We're just so used to seeing it in random situations. It feels like pro scouts. After being in a post-pro scout meta, I think we're all still so scarred when everyone and their uncle was going for pro scouts. But we're past that. That's just survival techniques. We're in better times now.
And with this now, he is going to be able to snack on a lot of food and now continuing the production of his units. He needed a little break there. Was a little tired. But now more knights and more archers, and with the little bit of 3 he has on gold here, and also that gold trickle, he seems to be having a pretty good balance here to constantly produce the knights that he needs. And I love the walls. These are pure Wham walls being erected everywhere. Anotand now ready for that castle age, and the knights are not really in position to stop this just yet.
Actually, I'm looking as far as Wham walls go, these are some of the best Wham walls you'll see. The amount of resources that those cover and the amount of like terrain that ground that gives him is actually really good. You got 2 deer packs, you got 2 gold veins, the stone, and some berries, as well as the 2 wood lines on that. It's a good spot. Meanwhile, White Tower coming up for Anotand. It's gonna be a castle game for him, though Wham is not that far behind. He'll be clicking up momentarily as well.
Now, with these archers, he's going to be able to stop some things, but not knights. Now, I like the placement of the White Tower too. It's conservative. I say I like it, but it does feel like it lacks quite a bit here. It does make sure that your farms are safe. You're going to have a pretty decent split around your TCs with the manors. So it's a safe one, but it doesn't really help you covering the ground as much as you'd like. Now, Wham going for his own high trade house, of course, and it's an okay spot here. He's going to be getting enough deer for himself too. There's a nice little drop-off point for him in all of it as well. So between those 2 wood lines, it's going to be a safe refuge for a lot of food.
It's as we enter into this like morphing meta with multiple TCs coming back into vogue, it's kind of fun to see just how different the pacing of this game has gone. We had some Dark Age aggression, and we kind of slowed down a little bit here in the Feudal Age, and now we're moving into Castle Age warfare coming up momentarily. We've got some Lords Lancaster going out in the field, but unfortunately, they're in the wrong place as some villagers go down. Wham, sending in the knights and getting some pay for that. 2 vills for a knight? I guess that's an okay trade. I mean, you'll take the trickle everywhere you can. Good thing for Wham is he can replenish the knight count if he so desires.
Exactly. With that food trickle he's got and the deer packs, ooh, and also that juicy boar. Now we see the Ilsguard's going to be throwing a little axe or 2 or just keeping an eye. Let's see, they do get a Vil, and only one Vil will pay the price, but it's a warning axe that is thrown, and these guys know that there's a little bit of pressure imminent. Now, horse archers being the weapon of choice. And this is interesting. Usually with horse archers, you're hoping to do some raids on the wood line, you're hoping to get some map control, and Wham might just be able to do so. But there's an imminent attack coming your way, and horse archers, they're not great at defending.
No, they're not good at standing and fighting in one place either. They really need to be mobile and moving. They don't like getting punched back at all. Meanwhile, Knight sneaks in here from Anotand. He's trying to get some damage done. He's on the gold with a scout. Needs to get that Knight on there, but being chased by Wham's own Knights. Meanwhile, we got the throwy axe boys coming back for another shot. Textiles keeping one alive. Man, Wham, I was going to mention Textiles was just brought in by Wham. This time saves the Vil because of it.
Now these Knights can't just run in without getting punished here, as now the walls will make sure that the lives are traded unfavorably, but you can see those yellow lines are just comfortably pushing forward. It doesn't look like Anotand is deterred at all. And Anotand, he's getting in a position where it's dangerously scarily getting to a fast Imperial if he wanted to stop production. You see that split on the resources, and we've seen this from House of Lancaster so many times. An absolute disgusting switch. One moment you're producing, the next moment they're Imperial Age, and there's nothing you can do about it with sheer amount of production coming out of them. So for now, Anotand still staying in the castle, producing as many knights as he can, but you're starting to see a lot more countering from Wham here. He's responding effectively. Anotand, he needs to think about what his transition is going to be.
In the meantime, he's just getting some more upgrades while he can. Some more damage being done in the back line. Another Vil will go down. And yeah, we're kind of in this weird middle point where both parties are castle, but neither of them have a massive military yet. Both under 20 units each. So kind of waiting to mass up to a point where they can really take large-scale engagements. Meanwhile, the horse archers standing and fighting can't do that. Good at harassing, but don't want to take too much damage if they can't help it. Harassing, however, the knights as they return home. I do like them as a unit to kind of chase around Anotand's units. He doesn't have anything too quick that could counter them, as long as Wham's willing to micro them.
Now, it's starting to get to a composition where you might be taking some risks here, because horse archers, they're not that scary in small numbers, right? But those are knights, and knights don't do a good job at chasing these down. So now you're putting yourself in a little bit of a micro battle, and Wham is pretty much a god of the micro battle. So those horse archers should be able to pick off these Ilsguards without breaking a sweat. And the mass knights, they're great. They're just not going to trade that effectively if the horse archers are focused on constantly. And I feel like Wham in that driving seat, he is the man to control them just right. Anotand, though, he keeps those little yellow dots running around. You see them going to be looking for another place to attack, but those Roos Wham walls are just keeping him safe.
Roos walls really helping him out here. Couple units caught out. Just going to say hi and run away. At this point, we start looking, okay, how long do we stay in castle? What are the next objectives? Do we have all the relics? Do we have all the sacred sites? What can we do? Most of the relics are ungrabbed. I'm curious if we can take a look at the split. I imagine some of them will be picked up on either side. I only see 3 on the map currently. As we get a bit of a bigger engagement in there, you mentioned again, Wham with those horse archers, he is really good with them, and you're showing exactly why. Picking off the weak straggler right there. And as they run and loop around, there's not much they can do. And if they charge in, they just back off and shoot you the moment you turn around again. And look at that one knight there. I mean, it came in at full health and now is almost dead. He can't afford to turn around and fight at this point.
Now, with the knight trades, they are looking pretty confident at doing so, and they're doing a decent job. Now the horse archer micro is going to be pivotal, but we do get a few charges off on this army, and not for too long though. Now the knight being the front lines yet again, and we see the horse archers just trying to keep on getting these trades. But Wham believes in this composition. You see him queuing up more horse archers. He knows that's where the numbers are just going to skyrocket, and Anotand, he's going to need to think of a way to deal with that.
Bringing the spears in is a really good choice here. They're not going to be able to stand against the Lords of Lancaster, but something to just stem the tide of knights, slow them down, let your horse archers do the work. I wouldn't mind if you added just a couple more of those.
Quickly just making sure that they pick off anything and everything that might be suboptimal to handle later. And now with the front gold, that's going to be denied here. We do see double tower coming in, and this is great, especially against the horse archers. Now your knights are in a much different position here. You don't want to fight into the spears, of course, but those towers are going to do a pretty good job at handling these very, very light cavalry that are just trying to dive you constantly. Spearmen, though, they are pretty much annoying, but only 2 is not going to be game ending for him.
No, but what the spears do is give a couple extra knights way to the fire of horse archers. It's just enough. I think they're actually a good choice to toss them there. Yeah, those towers definitely are the right way to keep villagers alive here. The horse archers just can't deal with buildings. They can't deal with static defenses, so they'll just run past. The tricky thing is, though, is Anotand, clearly the way he moved those knights back, doesn't really want to stand and fight either. Meanwhile, right next to this, Wham is way ahead of it. He's like, oh, you want to make for static defenses? Sure, I'm probably just going to make a trebuchet in here in a second. He's already got the siege workshop forward built right next to that tower.
And that singular siege workshop is going to cause such a reaction from Anotand. Anotand needs to find a way to respond to this. Now, looking at the resources per minute, we can see it's pretty much even-ish. It's just the gold that is looking a little bit healthier for Rus, which makes a lot of sense. This is Rus after all. But you don't see that huge advantage that we see from House of Lancaster when they have all those manors set up, because this man is a single manor man. He doesn't have all of the economy already in place. This is something where he needs to be careful, and a few more villagers paying the price for just being that far forward. And it shows you this is not a usual House of Lancaster setup. This is one where the Lancaster is actually still susceptible to all of these raids.
It felt like for a moment that Anotand was maybe considering doing like a fast Imperial play, or like moving up and out-teching Wham. At this point in the game, though, these horse archers have gotten so much value, and there's just nothing Anotand can do about them. He cannot get rid of them. They are going to be continuing to fire upon him and be a thorn in his side. There's just no end in sight. He's trying to get some range units on the field to try and deal with them, but there's just not enough yet. At this point, the longer the game goes, the more and more confident I feel in Wham's ability to hold on to this.
The horse archer numbers is definitely not going to be slowing down as we see Wham just reinvesting. And this is an awkward spot because a lot of people get to this point where they're like, hey, these are just horse archers. I'm not going to have a problem with them whatsoever. But very clearly, in specific mass, they start to become overwhelming. And now Anotand desperately is trying to get to that yeoman number, but he still has to make crossbows in the mix, which just don't trade the same way against this heavy composition of horses.
Yeah, once you get to that critical mass, which usually I feel like is above 26, 27, and he's sitting at 29 right now with some knight support, it starts getting difficult. Once they start essentially one-shotting knights, you've got a really big problem on your hands.
And now, slowly, the knight numbers are thinning for Wham. He's trying to remake these, and of course, Anotand backing out under his TC. This is a pretty reasonable move here. We've seen this more than enough. Oh, but there's still a lot of villagers up for grabs here, and he realizes this. That tower is a desperate ploy of just getting control of a wood line, because unfortunately the pressure is so much, and Wham, he is looking good. The tower just not finishing up, but the yeomen are starting to clean up what they can here.
Yeomen were definitely the right call for Anotand. Definitely the answer to these annoying, pesky horse archers. What he needs to do, though, is find a way to turn the tables and make this game one he can win. This is now a game he can survive for a little bit with those yeomen. He needs to decap these sacred sites. I mean, they're still at 10 minutes. They just started counting down, but I said earlier, like, I see visions of a couple games ago when it was a similar situation. Anotand surviving in his base, Wham tightening the noose. We've seen this twice now.
Now, Wham is just with that one trebuchet causing a lot of reaction from Anotand. Because those yeomen that Anotand invested into, they're great, but when you have a trebuchet on the field, it already forces you to make units that you don't necessarily want to make in this comp. But the knights itself, they are already going to be a thorn in his side, as now another fight breaking out, but this time, Anotand's trading a lot better. All of a sudden, the horse archer mass is getting thinned, and you can see Wham was already prepared for this, but he's prepared for something else too.
Hey, Wham has got a whole huge bank of food. If he wants to get off these horse archers, he's massing up knights now, and that's right when you start whittling down the thing that's been annoying you, suddenly your opponent sidesteps and starts making a different unit. And there we see lots of knights coming in. 14 right now, 3 in the queue. Meanwhile, Trebuchet doing its thing. Wham's in a very strong spot right here. I don't think you need me to say that per se. But I will also add that with that forward siege workshop right there, if Wham had started adding some more forward production on top of that, there would be almost no defender's advantage for Anotand.
Anotand is now finally getting a nice open hit here against that trebuchet, and getting pickoffs like this, it might seem small, but this is just putting the game into a much nicer spot for Anotand with time progressing. You need to slow down every bit of a lead that Wham has, and he's about to hit Rus late game. And Rus late game is pretty hard to deal with, especially with the discounted siege if he decides to go that way. I said that, but Wham very quickly reinvesting his resources into units instead of Imperial.
I don't know if it'd be a good idea to go into Imperial right now for Wham and cede all the land he's taken for himself at this point. I don't think he would mind getting to go Imp, but I think at this point he's got the comp he needs, as the Knights immediately taking on the front line. Horse Archers are getting thinned out pretty heavily by the Yeomen, but the Knights breaking through the front line here in just a second, trying to surround the Archers, starting to get through, and the front line is gone. Now they charge forward. At this point, all Anotand can do is kite and hope it'll be enough.
Now the yeoman numbers are thinning, but at the same time the reinforcements are getting in position, and their spears. So those spears are going to be able to handle these knights, but again the horse archers, as long as they are clicked correctly, they're going to be taking them down pretty quickly here. We do see him retreating to the base. He knows he needs every arrow fire he can find, and a tower providing a little bit of refuge. It does look like the army will eventually die down, I say, as I just see more and more units dying, but the problem is Wham is not stopping. His food situation is not looking too great though, so once this does die, it doesn't feel like he's in the same spot as he was before.
Tricky thing is, look at the villager kills. 23, 26 to 4. Wham might be losing this army up here, but he has inflicted damage while doing so. Meanwhile, the yeomen are still getting thinned out little by little. Anotand's going to be hard pressed to keep this up. Wham seems quite happy to throw this away and just make more later.
Now, Wham, he is definitely idling out a ton of this economy, which I think is pretty critical in his plan here, because Anotand's income is pretty wild considering he just needs to replace with food and wood for now. But that mangonel, you can see him popping out those villages. He quickly wants to take this thing down, and the crossbows are in position to answer to this very, very quickly. And mangonel shot coming through, hitting a few of this backline, and it does look like they are going to suffer some damages, but won't go down just yet. That TC has gotten so much value so far as a refuge.
This is the end. I think this will indeed be Wham's victory, as when you kite an enemy all the way to the edge of the map like this, past your base, that's just not a good sign. Meanwhile, 5.5 minutes left on the sacred timer. Anotand gave it a good ride. This was a very, very good competitive series, so we won't take anything away from him here. This was good game after good game. Wham, though, after being backed up to a match point against Anotand, able to come back, win the next 2 in a row, and wins the series, it looks like.
Now, with this push, Anotand needs to think about, hey, what can I do to get out of it? We've seen Anotand get out of some crazy stuff, but unfortunately, these units are just never ending. And now the Archer switch is also coming out for Wham, which is just mainly going to be a response to everything that Anotand has on offer. And now trying to get a few Hobbelars, but Hobbelars are not going to be the answer. He knows this. With that Manor Keep being put in his face, Anotand realizes this is it, and will go to the next series.
Yeah, you know what that means when you see a keep drop right in your face. That means, hey, game's over. We're good here. That's exactly what Wham does. Finally takes the series, one that went the distance, 3-2. A really fun one. Had some long games, had some short games, but in the end, Wham takes a victory from Anotand after a well-fought 5 games.
Oh, this was a wonderful push here by Wham. Just reading his civilization perfectly, responding to what Anotand does by getting that second TC and staying up to date. You can see that in the economy count. He was able to stay there, he never fell behind, and he always was on top of whatever Anotand was doing. He was responding with the units. I think Anotand not respecting that horse archer composition definitely just showed us that, hey, Wham is the one who knows how to exploit anything and everything on this map. And even with that early push from Anotand, getting the value from these hunting cabins, it just is not enough to get further and further ahead. I definitely think this was worth it. He slowed down Wham significantly by just getting that wood value as well. But just the follow-up with that horse archers, it was exactly the answer and a Wham knew he needed.
Horse archers are the kind of unit that once they get on the field, they're just so frustrating to deal with because you just feel like you can never catch them. You can never actually make them fight an honest fight. And that's what's so good about them. And that's why these yeomen were just a little bit late. You needed to master these a lot earlier because then the horse archers don't dare stand within range to fire against you. It took Anotand a while to get to that. By the time he made the switch, Wham was just a step ahead, and we see the knights here. That's what happens when you're a step ahead of your opponent. You know he's going to go for him eventually. The moment he starts thinking about that switch, you go ahead and counteract that with your own knights. But looking at the standings here, after almost a full day of casting here, Group A, we got Vortex and Marine Lord on top with 2 series wins. Marine Lord with 6-1. Only that one loss was brought to him by Goalie Deckel of all people. So congrats to Goalie Deckel, despite losing the series. Looks like Biljardi also has a series under his belt as well. Went 3-1. Anotand had a couple of good games as well, but went 1-1 in the series.
Now, with some of these scores, we have to point out that Wham and Volley's scores still need to be updated here, as I believe there was a forfeit between those two. So this means that that is going to be a significant difference with a nice little score change overall. Numidan here at the top of the group, which is absolutely wild. I cannot believe this man just coming in swinging. He is looking like a force to reckon with, as Beastie is second in the group right now. Papipo and B still needing to finish their games, but seeing the likes of Louis going 0-2, granted, he had a pretty tough day, and Lucifron already being 0-1 down, I am excited to see what this group holds. This is definitely the group to watch.
I don't want to pull Numidan down, by no means. Being 6-1 and 2-0 in the series, great. He played Lucifron and Corvinus, so he's got B, Beastie, Puppy Paw on the docket, so that might not stay quite as elevated as it is right now. But so far as you can only play who's in front of you, right? And so far, congrats to Numidan, man, doing really good so far. Hopefully for him that keeps up.